provide us with the invitation?
Absolutely. Let's go to the Lord. Father, we just thank you, Lord, for another beautiful day that you've blessed us with. Father, I just pray right now for wisdom with this body. Lord, as we do the business that you've called us to do, may we be fair in our decisions and tempered in our words. We pray all this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
All righty. I would entertain a motion to approve the, well, actually, before we approve the agenda, I have a couple items I would like to add. One is under, both of these are under new business. The one is under new business, paragraph C, item 1C, so it will be a new C if you see item AB. And this would be to change the scope for a utility van from specifying 15 seats to just be a multi-use van. Very small thing. Without objection, any objection to that? The other one, and there may be objection to this one, and I understand and am willing to take a vote if necessary. So Mr. Ellis called me today, and he will be here later today to speak to this. He is asking to appropriate $3 million off of the $20 million that we have set aside for him. So
19.5.
It's said again.
19.5.
19.5. So he's asking to appropriate. It's talking about being nitpicky, but so,
It'll become 20 if you
it's
say
okay.
it.
So he's asking to appropriate $3 million off of the 19.5 that we have set aside for him to operate off of. So it is technically a new appropriation, but because we've already set that in, I would typically say no to this, but because it's being pulled off of something we've already discussed about several times, I think this is okay. Is there any objection to adding to this, or would we need a vote? We're good to add it without objection? Okay, so without objection, I'd like to add those two.
Where do you
Oh,
want
that
it?
would be, excuse me, that would be at the very end of new business. This would be paragraph E, paragraph 6E.
What about,
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. I have a motion second, go ahead, Mr. Klein.
Yeah, we had we were hoping to advance a $10,000 appropriation for Cotton Town. I didn't see it in the agenda. Do you know?
didn't make time for the agenda.
It didn't make it?
So these
Okay.
agendas were.
It's rolled over to next month.
Rolled over,
Yeah.
okay.
Is it an emergency, are we okay?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think we're okay.
All right. Any others?
What about the Oak Grove volunteer fire? I think the emergency medical will fall under the discussion. There's already a placeholder.
Can you
for
just,
review.
can you just do that under your, I mean, you can handle that under your budget, under your.
What do you want to do, under the mayor's or mine, you want to?
Let's do that under yours. Let's
Okay.
do that under yours. I guess we can just put it for item D.
E.
Yes, item E. So, Oak Grove. All right, any others? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All righty. Recognition of the public. Mr. Jim Latimer.
The fire.
Jim Latimer, 1578 Latimer Lane, Hendersonville, Tennessee. Here to speak about Mr. Brown's house tonight. Again, acknowledge the great gift that he gave the county, to the school board, to the park. We would like to see the house preserved. It goes back into our family. Charles Latimer is my ancestor, who was the son of Jonathan Latimer, who came here after the Revolutionary War from Connecticut. He served at Ticonderoga in the French and Indian War, was at White Sands, Long Island, Harlem Heights, Saratoga. Those men put a lot on the line in order for us to be able to fly this flag today. His commander on Long Island, Samuel Selden, was captured and died in a British prison camp as they retreated from the area and the British Army was advancing. So after that, he took command of the militia unit from Connecticut. Whenever he got his promotion papers, he was serving in the line. A gentleman that served with him said that he saw him slap his side. He had a long coat on during the middle of the battle. When they got back to the rear and he took his coat off, his promotion papers fell out of his pocket, and there was a bullet lodged in that pocket in his promotion papers. So he literally had a battlefield commission under fire. After that, he was at Saratoga. General Gates complimented the militia, Connecticut militia, as holding the right side of Washington's line and keeping the British and the Hessians from rolling it up. After that, the French saw that the United States was a viable nation that came in on the side of the revolutionaries and helped turn the tide of the war. He was at the New London, Connecticut with Benedict Arnold, one of his former friends and one of his former commanders, burned the town of New London, Connecticut, which is where the Latimers lived in the area there, lost some of their businesses, some of the family businesses. He came up and reinforced, they couldn't attack the superior British Army, but he reinforced it as they retreated. After that, they came to the Tennessee frontier, settled over here on 650 acres off Station Camp Creek, where Liberty Creek is at, and running back further into there. In fact, his grave is over on a small family cemetery off Brinkley Branch Road. His son Nathaniel was killed when he went out with a militia following a band of Indians who were roguing in the area and causing a lot of damage. He was killed at the Battle of Rock Island. His other son, Wetherell, was at Buchanan Stations when they turned the tide of 300 warriors coming to destroy the fledgling community of Nashville. So they served up north, they served here in the South, were sort of transplanted Yankees coming in. Proud to be Southern now, but we would love to see that house preserved. There's a lot of history there that people don't know about. And we would love to see it preserved and get the respect it deserves. We would love to see a park, but that house needs to be preserved first in accordance to Mr. Brown's wishes. And thank y'all for listening to us, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chandler.
I'm Tommy Ladder, 264 Hester Road, Portland. I lived in Sumner County all my life, except for what time I was in service, and 8 years in Florida on the job. Colonel Johnson Ladward came here in 1790 and bought 640 acres, which ran basically from Hunter's Lane, where the elementary school is, to Brinkley Branch. Didn't quite make it to Brinkley Branch, but almost. He was the second person to have a deed on that property. The man before him was a land grant to Daniel James from the state of North Carolina in 1789. Colonel John came here and bought it in 1790. His son Charles built the house. And Mr. Klein asked me last week about if it's all built at the same time. I can't tell you. I'm not sure. I know it was built between 1797 and 1827, because Colonel Johnson gave Charles the land in 97, he died in 27. I think it's very early in that 30 years, but I can't say for sure. Mr. Brown gave the county, the school board, a great gift, I think. And he gave it to them with the understanding that they would preserve the house. And knowing Mr. Brown as I did, he would not have signed the deed if he'd known it was going to come to all this. He just wouldn't have done it. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Cindy McClard.
Hi, my name is Cynthia McClure. I live at 102 Tioga Trail in Hendersonville. I live right next door to, I used to call it the Brown Farm. It's where Liberty Creek. I live on the elementary side of the school. The school is beautiful. You've got the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school now. what concerns me in reading through the research that I've done, I came across a will. Mr. Brown, his last will and testament, and something in a codicil, and you've probably all read the codicil, I don't know, but I'm gonna read it again. It said, and this is from the last will and testament of William Brown. It says, I specifically bequeath to Sumner County, Tennessee, the county, and it's right here, the county, the cash sum of $500,000 to establish and maintain a public park located at 212 Hunters Lane, Hendersonville, Tennessee, with the historic home currently situated thereon being permanently maintained by the county, as the park's centerpiece. The park shall be known as William and Martha Brown Park. This bequest shall be a restricted fund held by the county in a separate account and used solely for the purposes of the establishment, promotion, ongoing support, and maintenance of the William and Martha Brown Park. And if it wasn't for Mr. Brown, there would be no Liberty Creek. There would be no elementary school, no middle school, no high school. And Mr. Brown, like I said, he was my neighbor, but I didn't know him personally. I knew his cows personally, but I did not know him. But he left everything that he had. He did not have any children. He didn't have any kids. He left everything for children, for a park, for his home to be the centerpiece. The $500,000, I don't even think was put in a separate account from the research that I've done. I may be wrong, and I don't know if I'm allowed to ask questions. Does anybody know?
No, ma'am.
No question? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I apologize.
It's okay.
But the $500,000 from the research that I've done was to be held in a separate account and not mingled in with the rest of the wonderful money that he gave Sumner County. And like I said, I live next door to the Brown house. He passed away in 2017, and the house hasn't been touched. Not touched until several months ago, maybe 2 months ago. All of a sudden, everything was brought up. And now, Mike and I, like I said, we drive down and look at the house. The house was constructed back in the late 1700s, the early 1800s. Underneath the brick, the exterior of the home are logs. It's a log house. Now he did add on a small portion to the home, but it hasn't been touched. And according to his last will and testament, this was his wish. His wish was to maintain his home and a park. It didn't specify how big the park was supposed to be. It didn't say anything about what was going to be in the park. But I'm looking at the project budget, since this is a budget meeting. And I noticed that the total budget comes to $1,250,000. And so I'm thinking to myself, and I may be wrong again, I don't know. And I wish somebody could answer my question, but the $1,250,000 to me would be $500,000 plus the $500,000 grant that was matched to the house. And then COVID hit, expenses went up. There was an additional $125,000 that was given for the house and the park. Under the assumption that the county could come up with $125,000. So I'm thinking to myself, and I might be, like I said, I may be wrong, but the 500 and the 500 and the 125 and the 125 mysteriously comes to the $1.25 million. So, in looking at the budget, there is not one thing that's related to his home. Not one thing. So if the $500,000 was part of this budget and it's not included, that's wrong. I'm looking at, and the park is gonna be nice. I love the school. The park is gonna be nice. And like I said, I don't know what Mr. Brown had in mind about a park. And it could have been a couple of pavilions, it could have been a couple of planter boxes, I don't know. But there's a parking lot for $140,000. There's a parking lot kiosk. There's an amphitheater for $27,000. There's pavilions with restrooms for $425,000. And I could go on and on. I'm looking at the budget. I'm looking at the budget that you're going to approve. And not one word about the home.
Ma'am, and I didn't set a time, but we are on a bit of a clock here.
Okay, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew that I'm upset about this. And it's a shame. I don't know, like I used to tell my boys, I would point my finger at them and I would look them in the eye and I would say, I'm ashamed of you. Don't do that. And that's what I'm saying tonight. If you approve this budget, I'm ashamed of you for letting this go through. If the house isn't somewhere allocated in this budget, and it should be. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Mike McClard.
I'm getting here slowly. My rheumatism's bothering me a little bit today, so she got a lot of my things I was gonna say, so I'll have to narrow mine down a little bit. Mike McClard, 102 Tioga Trail. I live with my beautiful wife Cindy there. We've been there 34 years. As she said, it's directly beside the Deerview Creek Elementary. As y'all know, Mr. Brown left this $500,000 to be strictly the way the codicil reads, to be used for a park with the house being the centerpiece of it. And as she said already, there's nothing in this $1.25 million budget that has anything to do with the house. I mean, it's just not there. And the $500,000, instead of being put to use on the house 5 years ago, when the man passed away, that had given this generous gift, it's just sat there. Now, a little bit has been done in the past 2 weeks. Maybe somebody felt guilty. I don't know, maybe someone here can tell us when y'all get to speak. There's been a little bit of work done. We talked about it in the Gen Ops meeting the other night. The windows have been boarded up. There's been a tree ground up. There's been a few limbs taken down, but on the back side of the house, there's still limbs hanging over the house. I'm not sure why you send a crew down there to get part of it and not get all of it. There's been a little bit of the ground, the dumpster arrived last week, and it looks like it's been filled up. It's still sitting there for about a week, so I'm assuming that's all the trash that was inside the house, and which should have been taken out 5 years ago, not now. But excuse me, this $500,000, if you'll look at that, the budget, it was used as a co-matching funds for this mega park, and that's all I'm calling it, because I don't know what else to call it. An 88-acre park surrounding 2 schools. I don't know what else you'd call it. But it was used as matching funds to get the $500,000 and the $125,000. But then in the budget for the park, there's nothing for the house. And the money's strictly supposed to be for the house. So I'm not sure how that happens. This all started in the previous administration. It proceeded along with the new administration, and nothing has changed other than what little cleanup has been done down there. You know, a park would be great. That's it. I got no problems with the park. I'd rather see that and a school beside our home that we've been there for so many years than 1,500 houses, which is normally what happens in Sumner County. You know, it seems like our county is ruled by developers and contractors. But, you know, this needs to be taken care of properly. The money needs to be given to the county instead of in an account with 2 people as the trustees of it. It needs to be taken care of correctly. The money needs to be used to update, or not update, stabilize this house, which is what you're gonna have to do first, and then go in and see what needs to be repaired. But as Cindy said, if you don't do it, shame on you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Diane Stinson.
I'm Diane Stinson, 1011 Lindale Drive, Castellan Springs. I'm part of the Latimer family. Charles Latimer, who built the home, was my 5th great-grandfather. I have a vested interest in seeing this house preserved. I have to agree with everything that has already been said. There's no excuse whatsoever for what has been happening. Right is right, wrong is wrong. And this has been handled wrong. And we are expecting you all to do what is right. There is just, it makes you question everything the commission and this county does if you don't do right. I, for one, will watch everything you do. And if you mess up, it will come to light. It will. Do right. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Anita Horton. Is Ms. Horton?
She's,
Oh, okay. Ms. Joanna Daniels.
Good evening. My name is Joanna Daniels. I reside at 152 Shadow Haven Way North, and I am coming to talk to you about library stuff. I'm actually the chair of the library board, and I want to say thank you so much for everything that you do for the libraries, and we really do appreciate everything. Since becoming the chair of the library board, I've been made aware of a few things that have, I guess, fallen through the cracks in the last few years. And I want to first say that I'm very sorry that things have fallen through the cracks. And know that I'm very active as a chair and trying to be in contact with state, regional, and you guys at all times. So you have three things, to my knowledge, on your agenda tonight. One is Westmoreland had received funds for carpeting. Well, hallelujah, carpeting's okay. So what we'd like to do is move that to windows. And so therefore helping with, updating the windows. And that was brought to the library board, and we did approve that. And so now it is being sent to you guys, and hopefully you guys will approve that. We absolutely appreciate that. I've become very familiar with TCA code 103-104, which talks about the powers and the duties of the library board. And the board has the authority to direct all the affairs of the library, including the authority to appoint a library administrator. And then it goes on to say that the board may make and enforce rules and regulations. The board may expend funds for the special training and formal education. And then it says the board may receive donations, devices, and bequests to be used by it directly for library purposes. And the board may hold and convey realty and personal property and negotiate leases for and on behalf of such library. So it has come to my attention that there is a donation that is on the books. That is a will. And it's for the Hendersonville Library. And so that is on your agenda tonight, and I'm asking that you please punt that to the library board for us to actually get information about it and to figure out what it is that we can or cannot do. And then of course, everything has to go through county, we would come to you, but that way we can come up with a plan for it. And then also, there's a grant that I was just made aware of that has been asked for you guys to review tonight. And I'm going to ask that you punt that back to us as well so that we can take a look at that. The point of the library board is to be not a liaison, but between the county and the libraries. Allow us to do our jobs because you appointed us so that we can first funnel things first as a board and then bring it to you, because I think you guys have a really big agenda and a lot on your budget. So allow us to first filter things and then bring it to you. Maybe it'll lessen your load. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. And Mr. Kevin Baker.
Thank you, sir. Sorry for getting here a little late, but I'll try to make this quick. Good to see you, brother. First thing that jumps off the agenda and raises some concern with me is when I read this letter from the comptroller's office. During a review of the budget, we noted that the general purpose school fund is budgeted to use $56 million of its fund balance, and it appears $33 million is being used for reoccurring expenses. Proper financial management, you know the thing. That concerns me. It seems like we're being set up here. It concerns me when I read down farther, and just for the record, I'm going to bring up the same thing I brought up in general ops. We're transferring, or we're looking to carry over $9.3 million from the Sky is Falling program that happened about a year ago, that we needed them $15 million to fund stadiums. And yet $9.3 million is being carried over. Citizens are getting tired of these political games being played. And when I read things like, shame on the school board for giving us a budget where they're going against what the comptroller says is standard operating procedure. That's setting us up, and shame on you all for accepting it. You're going to end up bearing the brunt of this, and us citizens are going to bear the brunt of it. So that was the first thing. The grant accounting. In every corporate environment I've ever been in, accountants work for the financial department, not for the executive branch. And it should be the accountants that then give the reports to the executives when they need it. If they need to know where the money has been spent or what's been allocated for what, they should get a report. They shouldn't have to be managing a person to be doing the bean counting. But that just, again, goes back to when I read proper financial management, I start to get concerned. The Brown House, oh, no, first, sorry. Sheriff's office, and the sheriff is here, and I apologize, sir, for not getting to you sooner. I tried to meet with you, you were on vacation, but I get concerned when 4 months after a new budget, we're asking for 2 new positions, a new lieutenant and a new captain. I don't know if it's needed or not, but I'm just, here we go again. We just completed a budget cycle. We need to get that under control. And I know the acting sheriff was involved. Sonny wasn't around much. So I mean, we've got to get our act together here, people. I'm very concerned about some of this stuff. Down to the Brown Park, and I won't belabor this, but I read in the documents that now the schools are going to give $500,000 to match the grant. It should have been done the right way with the first initial $500,000. Again, it just seems to me like, where's that $500,000 going to come from? Out of the school budget. You'll be seeing an amendment asking for that $500,000 to be moved over here. It just makes me concerned. Proper financial management. I get concerned. What else did I have to say? Oh, things like the election commission. They're again, 4 months after the budget, they're moving $15,000 for legal notices. Maybe if they weren't suing us taxpayers or the county, they wouldn't need $15,000 for legal notices. I don't know. You know, I leave it in your capable hands to manage this, and I know you're capable, but it sure makes me start to wonder, you know, what's going on. And we're going to be set up, and we're going to have a shortfall in revenue, and all of a sudden we're going to get caught with, we need a tax increase, and that ain't going to go over very good. That's all I have. Thank you for putting me on the list, man.
No problem. Thank you, sir. Okay, that concludes the recognition of the public. Okay, go ahead. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Motion and second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Okay, so we have a huge agenda today. Most of my comments I'll make at the start of various items as we get through them. We'll try to move through them very efficiently. At the end of the year, it appears that every Monday where we attempt to have a meeting falls on a holiday. So I'm gonna, without objection, I'd like to go ahead and move next month, or excuse me, the Monday, the 11th meeting of the 11th of November to Tuesday, the 12th at 5:30. Does anybody have any objection to that? Does that conflict with anybody's schedules? Okay, so Ms. Allison, if you would take care of that. Oh, Ms. Jessie, sorry.
Say 5:30 or something.
5:30. 5:30. Does that give everybody enough time to get here? Okay.
That's November 12th.
November 12th, Tuesday, November 12th at 5:30. Okay, Mr. Mayor.
No report, I'll reserve comments as the agenda items come.
Got it. Okay, Mr. Loing, I know we have a good bit here if we will try to move.
I'll go quickly. First item is the approval letter from the comptroller's office. As all of you are aware, and there's been some discussion, it's attached for you guys to look. My recommendation is to go ahead and send it to the county commission to docket it, where they'll have the records and they'll all
Second.
see it.
We have a
And-
motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
And the 2 items that they did note were discussed, which is the highway department, and during the commission floor, there was discussion about the GP fund, so.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
One other item, because if you look at the letter, and I know it refers you back to some matrix for the county that were healthy, and I'm going to have Miss Allison to pass those out. But the only 2 things I want to note is if you look at it and they go into 2023 budget, they talk about the large amount of cash that the county has and it could run 302 days. Because I had some commissioners ask me about that. Everybody needs to remember one thing. During 2003, we received we had $30, almost $40 million worth of ARPA funds in that. in your general fund, so that number is heavily skewed. And then the other one, they show our debts well within range, slightly above average, but during the 24 year, we did pay $21.6 million worth of principal, so we should be below average. Item number B is the financial management agenda, and there was 2 items. One of them's under old business, and it is the first one, if I'll discuss item number 2 first, which is the Chronos. There was a discussion about that, and the mayor, I think, was the one that made the motion to ask the budget committee to defer this for 1 more month, the way he can have a discussion with the elected officials and the department heads.
Without objection, I'm gonna move that to old business. Any objections?
It's already under old business on this
Yeah, so
discussion.
we'll just,
Leave
we
it.
need to do anything with it today?
No, just
Then
skip
then
it.
Let's continue to march and talk to the grant accountant.
The other one on the grant accountant, and that's one I do want to have a discussion about. If you look in your package on page number 13, to go through the history of the grant accountant, because we're calling it a grant accountant, which is where this originally started, but it's actually moved around quite a bit. Page 13, I've got too much stuff here. It starts on page 13. And Kevin I don't know if Kevin was here, it was before his time too, because he's been back and forth. But actually on page 12, the recommendation of the, first was the Financial Management Committee, which is the committee I work with. His recommendation is if the mayor needs, because basically now it's actually a, I guess a grant administrator, project manager, if they need that, they're requesting that the budget committee find the funds from other areas. Because we went through the history of the grant accountant, I came personally to the county in March of 2009. When I came, one of audit's biggest concerns was the grants. They were spread out, Beth, was it pretty much true everywhere? And that was my number 1 complaint, followed closely by audit. That same year, they gave us $10,000 to contract that, adopted a resolution wanting everything consolidated in. The following year in December, we hired an employee that was supposed to be about 80% grant accountant, about 20% project management. And we were supposed to share it with the mayor at the time. The mayor found out there was a lot more project management and other things involved, so he pretty much used the resource, close to 100%, Beth? So this particular resolution from 2015 has never completely been done. And if you look, there's several symptoms of this, and one of them would be if we follow the resolution, all the pieces for this particular park would have been in there, like the codicil. All the stuff that was in the report last month was dug up after the fact. When the questions came back, I went and obtained the codicil. Also, if we look back to the house that was torn down when you guys first got here and David was upset about Cottontown, that's because of the same issue. We have grant applications and we try to keep reports, but that's about all we're getting. We're having trouble getting the revenue receipts, all the details we need, and it's been going on for many years, and it's only getting worse as we move along. To be fair to Ms. Norfleet, she's doing things like preparing bid specs for the courthouse, going out and looking at the courthouse, doing grants, going out and looking at things at the grant, such as the actual park itself. She's doing some of the paperwork and sending it to us, but back about 4 or 5 years ago, we actually asked her to do after she was moved to Mr. Holt's office, to do the project ledger, and her and Mr. Holt both told us there wasn't enough time because of the workload. Back in 2015, they actually eliminated a project manager that was actually in his own office. So right now, the point being is we're looking at 2 things. We're saying grant accountant. She's doing a little bit of accounting. The grant accountant portion is missing. What she's doing is actually a lot of project management and grant management. And the concern that brings us down in there is if we leave that portion in finance, then ultimately at the end of the day, somebody needs to be able to sign off on the projects on the day-to-day, such as, is the courthouse acceptable? Is the park, if it was completed, eventually acceptable? That's outside of finances realm. I can get you to the point where your house is built and paid for, but if it was a house, I couldn't look at your house and see if you're happy with it.
So
really, I feel like that's more probably to the electoral, such as the mayor, because he's a day-to-day, or gen ops. So really, we're looking at 2 things, and that was what was brought up at financial management, is right now the grant accounting invested by the 2012 Act has never happened because of the staffing was removed.
So I'd like to entertain a motion to discuss, and then I'm going to get into you immediately, because I have a thought here, and I think we can potentially at least begin to patch this problem. Motion to discuss.
I'll motion.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, one no. It's gonna be, I'm gonna make this super quick. So here's the thing, I tried to solve this. We recognized this during the last budget cycle. And the citizen comments earlier were correct about grant accounting belonging in the finance department. Project management, which we have eliminated in the past, belongs in either, if you're trying to be like a typical organization, it belongs either in the COO or the CEO lane, which is equivalent to the county mayor. So we have one person who's doing both jobs right now. I mean, that's what we've really got going on. We have one person who's playing the role of a project manager and also a grant accountant. And by the way, I mean, I'm just gonna say this, I mean, we're talking a couple $100 million worth of projects that this person manages. And, you know, this is an area where I think we actually run lean as a county. If you had that in a typical organization, you would have, you know, a team, you know, 1, 2, 3 people on this. You just would for projects of that scope. So I don't want to say I told you so, but I made a motion during the last budget cycle to create the seed of a PMO shop, and that had two personnel in it, and that totally fell apart because of various back and forth, which was fine, and we kind of just defaulted back to where we are now. So I spoke with Mr. Long and Mr. Isbell today, and I've spoken with both of you guys on this item several times. So Mr. Long, and I'm going to try to make this super clear here. Mr. Isbell's ask is, hey, I need a project manager. And if you look in the past and you look at how a typical organization would run, I don't think that's an unfair ask. Mr. Long's ask is, hey, I need a grant accountant, but I've got a project manager, and I don't want to be in charge of somebody where I'm trying to sign off for buildings that's outside of my lane. These are the things that have been told to me. Is anybody, am I misstating anything, bottom line here? Okay, so we also don't want to create new personnel in the middle of a budget cycle. I tried to do it, we don't want to do it again, so here's what I'm going to suggest. I actually want to do the inverse of what B says here, because it moves us the right direction. And guys, please correct me if I'm wrong, but what I think we agreed to today between both parties is that we would move the line item we would move a line item into Mr. Isbell's budget, which is equivalent to what Ms. Norfleet is making now, and that would be for a project management position.
In county buildings, yeah.
Into county buildings. Now, my question to Mr. Long was, will your office be able to pick up because we're not going to create a new position. I'm going to push for it next. I'm going to push for it next budget, but I'm not going to be able to create it between now and then. And will you be able to pick up this this additional slack if we move that? If we solve the project management problem and leave the grant accountant problem open for the next 6 months?
I think leave it as it's working right now. We can't put any more back because right now we're running excessive overtime. Right now we're bleeding. It's been going on for years, but we're running excessive overtime. I mean, hours that when we leave, everybody else is out of the parking lot. It's regular now. But we can continue on till June, but we really need some help.
Is there any objection to moving Miss Norfleet's, effectively Miss Norfleet, but to moving a position for project management into the buildings? Because I know that's what we discussed today. Is there any objection to that?
Not on my end, because the thing is, as I was just saying, I can manage the financial completion and all that all the way to if you're happy with the building.
But
if you're happy with the building, really needs to be somebody elected by the people. If it's a mayor, Gen Ops, but as you're saying, Gen Ops is a committee, and if we ran that through Gen Ops, you guys would be here full time. Your mayor is your statutory day-to-day officer, so it really needs to be signed off by the mayor.
County building.
All right, motion second. Any discussion on this?
What's the motion?
The motion is so what we are doing is we are moving a line item from finance into the county mayor's office under buildings. And that will be for a project management role. And we will, basically the finance department's gonna limp along for the next 6 months. And I'm gonna motion to add a grant accountant to the finance department full-time next budget cycle.
But we do need to continue to do what she's doing for now.
Yeah, and just to make it clear that she'll continue what she's doing. We're not transferring functions through finance. during
Right,
the
because
budget
we're
year.
bleeding right now pretty
Yeah.
good. Should be-
So we'll continue to work with David.
So it's status quo.
Basically, yeah, just
Any-
continue as is.
Any
for
other
now.
discussion?
That's the end of my report.
All in favor? Oh, do you have, go ahead.
Well, I think David, correct me, but I thought we tried to address this back in 2016 together, and we got it approved to do both, and we ended up,
It happened back in actually 2010. And Mr.
and then
Holmes-
again in 2016, I believe. We
Um,
put both line items in the budget, and then we ended up scrapping them, do we not?
We never did come-
Or
There was-
discussed, it got voted.
They pulled, back in 15, the project management position was eliminated because Mr. Holt was using her, and we were, in 2012, moving along, so the thought was eventually when we completed 2012, we'd pick up all that.
Right. So the point I have is this for a lot of years, this has been, we just keep doing this. And people keep sitting out here looking at us doing this. It's two positions. And now we're gonna make people suffer. We've been told we're bleeding with overtime for, I'm gonna say that position, if you hired it for the next 6 months and you got someone in here, benefits, everything all in, $60,000 is what it would cost you for the rest of the year.
Little over under, yeah.
So all the stuff politically that we do and this and that, this is just real life, man hours, overtime, we have it. We can vote, I would like to just say, let's move the line item over, but also go ahead and vote to increase the finance director's budget for that 60,000, so he can go ahead and get that person in, and this isn't delayed again, as we've just heard, since 2012, 12 years, and probably the 6th or 20th time, somewhere between there, that this body has jockeyed back and forth. I believe in grabbing the purse strings on something we can, but this problem is not going away, and you can research these minutes a lot. So my motion would be, yes, we move that over, but then we also go ahead and, we're talking about $400 million, and we're talking about 60,000. It's gonna, probably, what's your overtime gonna run? I'm gonna guess overtime just on this, probably doing this work, is probably gonna run you 30 of that 60 anyways. I bet it's a $30,000.
We're maxing comp and paying out comp, just to keep from going over, we're.
So,
running
I would be.
Plus happiness of a person, I bet it's $30,000.
I would be okay with this, except, I'm just gonna give you.
Just would be my
I would-
motion. You can get a
So it has
second.
was a motion, have a second?
Well, there's another motion on the floor.
Well, you had a.
Well,
is that-
motion to amend that we do this
Motion to
and
amend.
approve
Is there a
60,000 for finance.
I'll
Second.
second, okay, so I was gonna second it just to discuss it, but I'm not against it in principle, but I will tell you the reason I'm against it unless we can do it a particular way. We have half a penny that we have set aside in order to solve various, just patch up some questions around salary. Earlier today, I met with almost all the department heads, county mayor, and Mr. Long, and what happened is we got all the requests in, and they were a good bit over that $500,000. So we kind of beat each other up for a little bit, and I have that number down to where we were within $9,000 of that half a penny. So I don't know that we have it recurring. If there's, I don't know if we could do this in capital. Could you? I don't know that there's any way you could do this out of the general. If there's any way we could do it, I just don't think there's a way to do it. Otherwise, I would be for it. So I got to be against it, because otherwise I'll have to go back and break what the agreements that I think we come to today with the department heads. We just don't have it. Unless we want to go back and change the tax allocation, which I don't think anybody wants to mess with. We just don't have it this time around. Unless, Mr. Long, I'm open to suggestions here, because you were in the same meeting I was today. We've got $9,000 left over.
I'm gonna say we're gonna bleed overtime, and that's kind of, and the same thing, we're not going to be,
What do you have in your overtime budget right now? Because you're gonna save that.
what do we have?
Go,
20?
go ahead, Ms. Go
How
ahead.
much is left in it
I would like,
after this next payout?
my preference would be to move forward with the original motion
We'll use
and
12.
then, and then we can talk about the second motion next month. And we get all this data versus trying to figure out, because I understand the logic, but I'd like to have a little bit of data before I vote on it.
Mr. Klein.
When we put out for budget last March, we asked for department structure charts. one of the things that we don't have is we don't have job descriptions for pretty much anything. Now, I know the mayor's got 2 gals working in his office. I don't have no idea what they do. I'm not saying that they're not working, I'm not saying that they're not killing themselves. I'm just saying that we're here to spend the money, but we don't even know what we're spending it on. Is there not a more scientific way we can do this?
Well, I'll just respond to that. The way I view this body is we are running a 300 million P&L organization.
Mhm.
And we are we're a board of directors for a $300 million P&L organization. And when you're that large, the board of directors doesn't get into the nitty-gritty of the HR of exactly the job of the executive and the directors of those various functions, unless there's something that's clearly breaking somewhere, and in which case a board of directors will come in, and to me that's our role. So I'm not going to.
My
I'm
point
just
is,
saying I can't answer your question, but I don't know that I need to answer that question.
well, my point is we don't know if it's breaking or not because we don't have enough information to even know that.
We have job descriptions in my office.
Miss-
Our office has job descriptions.
Mr. Pomeroy.
Mine.
In your department?
Yeah, my department does.
Ms. Pomeroy.
Not to, and I'm not, Mr. Klein, I'm not trying to say this, I think we do know this is breaking. I'm not talking about everything else. I do think we know that for 12 years, documented 12 years, there's been a fight over how one person can try to do 2 jobs. And I do know that the finance department does have a job description of what they need and what they need out of a grant account. We know that. And it's just constantly been back to, and sometimes we get caught up with who the person is. I don't care who the person is. You know, this county mayor wanted it back. Mr. Long said, I gotta have this back. And we just keep going back and forth. And then and not just us, I mean, the people before us. Like I said, I was talking about this in 2014, 15, and 16. I believe some of our friends on the front row was here listening to these discussions. Same thing. So there are areas where I think we need to be in here and really hold each other accountable to the screws. Anybody who's seen me on this body before, I believe that. This is just an area that's not changing. In my company I run, if I have an area where I constantly get feedback, that's a 2-person job. And if for 12 years as the CEO, I keep trying to one, I'm gonna have a miserable person. Right now, I'm gonna have a bad employee that's trying to do 2 different things, can't do it. Second, we're not gonna run right, and we're gonna be losing money. And I think a lot of these problems that we have and we've listened to over grants, and is the grant not being done? How's the process of the grant being done? We don't even think about that same person also trying to do the accounting side of that grant, as well as the project management side of that grant. So I just would say, I gotta think what Commissioner Becker said, that's fine if we wait a month. But I bet when you look at their overtime budget, you look at what, we are probably sitting here squabbling over a net cost to the county, actual cost to the county, of less than $15,000. And I would bet a lot of money that if that's where that math would come out, I'm pretty good with numbers. So do what y'all want to do, but this is one thing we can put it into, and I think all of us could look really good that we ended something that for 12 years, or just do away with grants altogether and do away with both positions and don't do anything with them. But what we're doing now is broke, and for a little amount of money.
So we have a motion and a second. We have an amendment and a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the amendment, which is to build a line item in for $60,000 for the finance department? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Against?
One abstention.
Okay, so motion fails to carry 3 on 3. 1, 2, no. That was 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2.
There's
go.
only 6 of us here.
Yeah, so it's 33, it fails. It fails. We will, here's what I'm gonna direct though. I wanna keep this on, old business next time, so that we can try to solve
So
it.
are we gonna go ahead and vote to?
Yeah, we'll go ahead. We now have to get to the main. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
to county buildings.
Yes, move that to county buildings. Okay, and we will keep this on there because I do agree it's something that we can probably around the margins fix. I'm just not prepared to do it today. Okay, sorry, I'm taking over for you. Go ahead, Mr. Long.
You're good. We're down to page number 19, which is the sheriff's department's transfers.
Motion approved.
No, it's a transfer.
We have motion to approve, second? Second. Motion and a second. This is all net, correct?
There's no.
No
Yes,
new
sir.
money. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Page 20 is another transfer and involves salary, so we separate them. This one actually involves grant funds, so it's no cost to the county in any
Motion
form.
approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Page 21 is a request from the judge to utilize some savings, and it's just a line item transfer, and it's no new money.
Motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
The next one, page 23, is your interbudgetary transfers. These are just operational line items. If anybody has a question, I'll try to answer them.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on these? All in favor? Any opposed?
And then
Okay.
item E is Oak Grove. My understanding today, based on this.
Whoa. We got 3 and 4 here.
I'm sorry, did I skip 3 and 4?
You skipped 3 and 4.
I'm sorry, page 25 is number 3. And my question is, did this pass? I'm assuming it passed emergency services. I had somebody call,
The original breakdown,
Yes, sir.
yes, it did.
So the reason this is on here is when the county commission makes a contribution, they have to contribute it to the individual departments. So it was put in the original budget, but it needs to be transferred or appropriated to the individual departments.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I'm going to consider none of these needing a second reading because they're transfers or they're existing.
Yep, you good?
Rural Fire Department, I'm sorry, Hendersonville Library donation, this is for your information.
So I'm gonna make a motion here. I'm not gonna make a motion. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make a comment, and I think we can go ahead and move this to old business. I understand several folks, and I'm one of them. I'd heard about this recently, but we haven't had a whole lot of time to tackle this. And all that said, it's something that has been outstanding for a while. Bottom line, we have several $100,000 that have been gifted to the Hendersonville Library. I don't think we're prepared to handle it today, but what I would like to do is, I know that the library board would like to have time to chew on it, so that's great. And I know that that Commissioner Bergdorf has a unique position of being both on the library board and on this committee. So I think, so in order to do this without having to have tons of ad hocs and subcommittees, we can let the library board chew on it, and then have Ms. Bergdorf, I think you can run this to ground and bring us back with a recommendation.
Absolutely.
So I don't know that we need a motion.
We don't.
We're just gonna move this to old business. And now we can go ahead and go to Oak Grove. Mr. Loring?
Oak Grove has, I think it's 400 and some odd thousand appropriated to it, talking to the mayor. Their strong belief is it's going to run past that amount, and he doesn't want to move forward until he at least gets preliminary approval, because what happens is we hire the architect. The architect will actually send bid specs and stuff to my office to bid it. We will bid it and get it back, but once we start the bidding process, it's actually going to cost you funds. So he doesn't want to run forward until he's sure that you'll fund
What's the
it.
total difference?
It's about $500,000.
So I'm gonna motion to appropriate $500,000. We have it in capital to appropriate $500,000 in capital so that we can move this along.
From local capital.
Local.
Can you waive the second reading, because these are
Yeah,
time
and
sensitive.
with the waiver of a second reading, that's the motion.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, Mr. Klein, go ahead.
I'm confused. This is the Oak Grove Volunteer Fire Department.
Yes,
It was originally gonna be around $500,000.
Yes.
We're adding $500,000 to it.
okay. Mr. Loring? Yes.
When he talked, Mr. Isabel's been preliminarily talking to the actual architect, and his understanding is he believes it's going to run significantly above that. So what's gonna happen is if Mr. Isabel goes ahead and contracts and goes ahead and bids, and it comes back more, and you got this guys decide not to do it, we're gonna lose all these architectural fees. So this is the point where you gotta decide based on the architect's best estimate, are you willing to go that far? And the second item is why I'm asking about the second reading. We need to have the portion that's ARPA, which is combined with this, all tied down by the end of this
Yes.
calendar year, or we're gonna lose the ARPA portion. We've got to,
This is gonna happen
about 2
again when
months.
we get to Westmoreland, similar situation.
And I hate to say you're on a rush, but at this point, we've kind of run out of time on ARPA funds.
So we've doubled the cost of the construction.
That's what we're just being told by or Mr. Isbell was being told by the architect. So basically, I'm the messenger and he's the messenger from the architect at this
Again,
point.
these are estimates, they have not been bid out yet. So it may come in lower, it may come in higher, but this is the best guess based on the professionals with the architects. And that was the original design that we looked at. That's
The
just the
reason it's
building
come up
cost.
now, David, is because if the mayor, he's got architectural money, he could have just, based on that understanding, could have pressed forward. We get to the end and all of you, the county commission decides, 13, and this committee's unwilling to spend $1 million. So what the architectural fee was, we would have lost all that.
And
So that's why we're bringing it
because
up
of the
now.
timing, we will risk losing the ARPA money.
If we don't move
as well.
forward this month, we need to decide
How long
what
has
we're
this
gonna do.
discussion been going on? I mean, I feel like it's been a while.
I think it was almost since you guys came into office.
That's what I would venture
But
to
right
say
before,
that
after you came into
building costs
office.
have probably increased. I'm not saying that it's, I know.
So do we have a
yeah.
breakdown of costs? I mean, what?
That's
just
what it's
an-
gonna get
just
you.
an- It's just an estimate at this point. I mean, it's not.
This is an estimate so that we can go forward.
And once
We'll
we-
have a breakdown when we bid it out.
I'm
and
sure
go
there is a
through the
breakdown on
financing
it, but it's-
process,
That,
yeah.
it's that statute that requires construction, the county has to have an architect or engineer. So we're gonna have to have architectural plans and an engineer involved before we can bid the item. Most items we can bid and get you a price for no to little cost, some cost, but internal. And we can bring you the cost of the item. Building construction, major renovations, things that affect the electrical, we actually have to get an architect or engineer involved up front. And just like everybody else, are making a living, so they're gonna start charging us when we start getting designs.
Right, but what I'm wondering is who's gonna be overseeing the costs? I mean, when you build a project, you massage numbers and you.
What'll happen was the architect will work through Miss Norfleet, through John's office. They'll get the designs, come back and bid it through finance based on the designs, and then we will work with her and the architect on the best and lowest bidder.
Can Gen Ops be involved at all?
Yeah, you will be. I mean, you can add this to your, there's no reason you can't add it to your,
Well,
to your agenda.
Can you could you possibly approve it for the up to 500 more
But the-
for us to bid it and the mayor report back to Gen Ops?
Yeah,
Just even report back after
Well,
we get done.
I mean, it doesn't stop anything, because we're just gonna, I mean, they can bring it, what's gonna happen here is that they'll report to Gen Ops throughout the progress of it, but the dollars will be allocated to it. I mean, I don't know that we need to change anything that we're doing. You can always bring an agenda item to Gen Ops to say, hey, we want to report on the progress of this. I mean, there's nothing that stops you from being able to do that for anything. I just don't want to hold up, I don't want to risk two things. We have to have a architect to be able to say, yea, verily, this is what we think a thing is going to cost.
Yeah.
And two, we're now on a timeline. So we're on a timeline for two reasons. If we don't, we can lose the architecture, we can begin to incur architecture fees, and two, we risk losing the ARPA funds if we don't get those appropriated by the end of the year. I mean, we're getting close to 60 days out, so it's like, it's one of these things that happens.
If nobody objects, I can have Mindy, the one that does the bids with Miss Norfleet, just CC David on our bid
That's
documents
fine.
going back and forth with the architect, and he can
We have
look at them if he wants to.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and my motion did have, waive the second reading. I said that at the beginning.
And that is the end of my
I know
report,
it's
unless
not.
anybody has any questions.
I just don't know how we can double the costs. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, moving to old business. This thing's been on here forever. Mr. Mayor, do we have anything on this part? Are we gonna get this money? It's $900,000 from the city of Gallatin.
I hope so.
I mean, do we have any
I
left?
mean, it's still outstanding.
All right.
So I have no leverage.
I'm gonna,
But
we have
I will be-
we have a huge agenda, so I'm gonna leave this on old business, for now. Potential ARPA programs, I don't know that, I think we're
you're
about to.
Out of money when you get to the
I
end of
think
this,
we're
if
about to
you
be
move
out
forward.
of money on the ARPA, and there's a very specific reason why, so Without objection, I think I'm gonna strike this. I'm gonna strike item B, and we're gonna remove it because we're about to be out of ARPA funds. Sheriff's Office, smart books. This is from ARPA, but again, I think we're gonna be,
They've already purchased those through capital.
yeah, so let's strike this one.
And then item D, correction payroll, you moved that to the old business already.
Yep, let's move that to old business. Wait, yep, we can do that.
I'm sorry, just to be clear, the smart books came off, right?
Smart books are coming off, yes,
Okay.
And I
correct.
think the potential ARPA's coming off too.
Okay, so the hearing items from the August 12th commission meeting, this is,
You'll pass those out.
these are the,
Here it is.
thank you. Excuse me, these are the salary items. So I'll go ahead and brief these real quick. You guys should be getting a document from Ms. Allison.
That's easy.
And thank you. So, I mentioned this earlier, just to get real brief here. At the end of last year's budget, or this fiscal year budget, we recognized that there were quite a few requests for changes that had come in, and we were going to be unable to take care of all of them. So we set aside one half of one penny, which is approximately $500,000 to handle these. Subsequently to that, we had a number of requests that came back, and once you added all those up, they were a good bit over the $500,000. So I had several discussions with the department heads, county mayor, and finance director, and we all sat down and beat each other up today. And here's what I'm going to propose. I'm going to talk, and I'm going to make a motion to approve this all at once because I think it solves the problem. Let me just line it out so we can be heard here. So it would be, I would appropriate $240,000 to the sheriff's office, $156,000 for the EMS, $36,000 for circuit clerk, $30,000 for assessor of property, $8,000 for finance department, $6,000 for IT, $2,600 for the ECC, and then $12,000 for the election commission, for a total of $490,600. And this is to backfill requests that have come in from the various departments post that 0.5 penny set aside. So that is my motion. We have
Second.
Motion and a second. Go ahead, you're in queue, then I'll get you.
Sure.
Is this 490, I mean, we're already basically gonna be in November, so we're missing, something 5 months of the year. Is this 490 just for 7 months worth, or is this?
No, I think we're going back, right?
My understanding was annualized, but
Yeah, it's annualized.
I would probably recommend that you make that part of your motion if that's your.
I'll amend the motion and make it annualized.
All right, that's cool, all right.
And you said all the directors were.
All the
in
directors
this.
are,
Okay.
and several of them are here, and so if I'm speaking, if I'm lying, then they can yell at me, because they're all right here.
These are all the items that you said on the floor that night.
Yeah.
These are all the items that everybody
We
came
had
forward, and I
500,
said, hey, we can't solve it all. They all came in, they were a good bit over. I basically gave everybody about a 35% haircut, to account for overhead, and they, we all accepted.
And I didn't mention anything tonight because you said you guys are moving forward just to disclose. I did not mention this late that night because you said you guys were going to.
Right. So, Mr. Klein?
So for clarification, this is additional pay
Correct,
to these departments
correct.
to accommodate what they wanted to get, that
Correct.
they didn't get during the
Correct.
budget cycle.
And I can.
It's not all that they asked for, but it's,
But this is the 500 we moved when we said.
Yeah, I remember the
That
half
was what
penny,
this is, that's fine.
and I just wanted to make sure, and I wanted the public to know that this is additional pay that
It
did
is.
not get taken care of during the budget cycle.
I don't know if we need to waive the second.
I think we should waive the second.
Yeah.
I'm gonna motion to, I'm gonna amend my motion to, and you're good with it, to waive second reading?
And
You're good with it?
also, can you say that the department heads are to bring us the detailed line items before
Yes.
tomorrow, because we need them for the
Yes,
commission?
I would ask the department heads, please bring the specific line item changes.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Klein?
So For instance, the sheriff's office has almost $250,000 to deal with.
Well, they have 200,000 to deal with because the 40,000 is overhead. So the way I calculated this, we have about 11%, what is it?
11.69 for retirement,
And then
7.65 for Social Security,
for
Medicare, and then a tiny bit of life insurance.
So it's about 20% as a wrap rate. So I applied a 20% wrap rate, backed down from that, and then added it together to get, so this includes both, if you look, I mean, I can get it right here. So this is what they can play with, and then that's what the wrap rate.
And so Sheriff Craddock will determine who gets what out of this 240.
Yes,
That's
that's
totally under his, and same with every other
Correct.
department head.
That's right. We did not get into the whole moving and shaking every single, we already did that during budget, we didn't need to do it again. We're gonna let them plug it as they see fit. Okay, any further discussion on this one? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
One.
Okay, so that will fail the second reading. So we'll have to have a second reading on this. So we have one no.
Yes, it's
Can I
annual.
ask a question before you get into the round part? The correction of the pay rate, why are we moving that to old business again?
You have a rule that any appropriation over $5,000, unless it's part of an existing capital projects plan, then it requires a second reading unless every member of the.
You're talking about the
You're talking
five,
about the whole
Talking
back
about
where
the
we
whole
catch all
back.
the
You're talking about the whole
paychecks up.
I'm going back.
The whole back.
I'm
The
going
whole
back.
back.
I'm asking about D.
Oh, that's because. the-
Shannon and I were, sorry,
Mi-
Commissioner Bergdorf and I were
Mr.
talking.
Isabel is gonna go back and talk to the department heads and the elected officials
Oh,
about.
that's what that, oh.
Because
okay.
there's,
Gotcha.
to do everybody's like 300 some thousand, but there was a lesser plan, but not quite as.
This is the
good.
paying them for when they actually work
Yeah.
ahead of time.
yes. And that's another thing that we're.
So I thought you were talking about the way you're.
No, you're good. I just wanna make sure
It's been going on for a long time, and we're trying to fix it. Go ahead.
May I ask Mr.
Just
Klein
just
to
understand.
to reconsider his no vote there? and
Motion to reconsider?
Get his questions answered between now and next Monday.
All right, is there a motion to reconsider?
He would have.
Well, no, we're the winning side.
Motion to reconsider.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Go ahead and state your question.
I'm assuming Mr. Klein has some questions and that.
Reconsider means to think about
I
something.
don't know.
Lexa.
I was like, what is that? So that's what reconsider means. But I'm assuming there's questions that haven't been answered, which is
It looks like
great.
you haven't set up any slides.
That's not playing. Mine's never done that in history.
But because of the second reading, and I would delay it another month, my question is if we could.
Answer his questions so we can.
Either that or just go ahead and pass it. He has a chance on Monday night to, between now and Monday. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes
If they
sense.
are gonna bring the line items.
I will reconsider.
All right.
Or I'll vote yea.
So I'll state it again. The motion here is that we pass this, waive the second reading, and in so doing also request that the department heads bring us a line item breakdown.
And it's
for
annualized.
consideration. What's that? And it is annualized, correct?
Yeah.
Good a second?
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, great. Sorry about that. Let's, that is item D and E. All right, so we got some big stuff down. Now let's get into the Brown Park. Okay, so I'm gonna motion to discuss, and I've got something real quick on this. I think we can do away with this very quickly.
Motion to discuss.
Just make a motion to do something.
Yeah, I'm gonna do something. Just motion to discuss.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, we have no. All right, here's what I want to do. I've spoken with a lot of people about this. I spoke to Mayor Isabel today. I think what I would like to do is keep this in old business and appoint. So let me just give a brief breakdown here. Mayor Isabel, last month, we were, he had mentioned that he was gonna go to TDEC and try to figure out if we could amend the grant. My understanding is that we can't do that. So where we're at now, it appears to me that if we, on the one hand, if we abide by the will, which is very clear to me that we should honor the home, that we will lose the grant, which, that's fine, but we are losing out on some funding. So Mr. Isbell had a suggestion of getting some experts from MTSU, who he has called today, in order to see if we can, to see what we can do with the house, such that we could potentially use such that we could also keep the grant funding, so we won't lose out on it. That said, I'm of the opinion that, as we've heard from a lot of people here, I'm gonna appoint, and I'm just gonna do this, I'm gonna appoint a subcommittee.
If I may.
Well, let me finish real quick, and then y'all tell me
Okay.
if I can't do it. I'm gonna appoint a subcommittee, and that subcommittee, I don't have the names yet, it will include people from the commission, and then we will, let's look,
It's discharged, Matt.
what's that?
Eric just pointed out a point.
When you
Mr.
put
Baker
a
gave you 60
timeline
days,
on it
it's going
from
back to
commission,
commission.
it's automatically discharged. You'll have to take it up as new business.
It's gotta go back to commission.
Well, then that's fine, I'll bring this up in the commission, because I wanna appoint a subcommittee, and I want citizens on.
Can I point to one more thing, just to make sure it's something that I said in the minutes, is a couple of things. Is one, there's a statute that if you accept the will as a donation, you have to specifically abide by what it says. So if our understanding of the will, that the house has to be the centerpiece and maintained perpetually, and the grant does not technically contain the house anyway to maintain perpetually, I do not think you can use that $500,000 to match the grant, or to build the park unless the house is a perpetually maintained centerpiece. That's all I'm saying. I think it's, unless you're gonna come up with more funding, that it can't be used to build the park, or unless you include the house in some way.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
What were the people from MTSU going to do?
Well, they have a department that goes in, they do projects across the state of Tennessee where they come in and they bring a team in and assess the historic nature of the home, I guess, the viability of restoring it, and gives you advice on how to go about doing that the proper way to maintain the character and the integrity of that house. So it's basically bringing somebody with more knowledge than all of us.
And how will that replace the importance of the grant?
It's given us knowledge on how to approach this.
At least the original portion.
My understanding is that we may lose the grant regardless, but this is at least a way.
You can't use the $500,000.
And how to approach fixing the Brown house to get it to where it is a centerpiece of this now field that we have.
We would need to do that anyway.
So first, I would like to thank you for doing that, because I've been screaming historical architect the entire time, not in meetings. Well, I read the TDEC letter, and I don't see how that house can become a rec center in order to keep that grant.
I don't think it's a wise idea to go that path.
And so having the historical assessment done, I think is a great idea, because I do want to see the house restored, even if it is just like the Mansker Fort House, where it's only open 2 or 3 times a year for special activities. And another thing I had thought about, the tourism board takes care of the Douglas Clark House. They staff it, they run it, they keep historians in there. This is something that I just want to put out there, that it might not be a bad idea, because before our commission, Douglas Clark House was being run by tourism. Beyond our commission, it will probably remain so. If this comes about, we could park that house, and however it's cut out, with like the Douglas Clark House, with tourism to staff or to do whatever.
And that's something that I wanted to talk about with this subcommittee
Okay.
on how we would approach the management of that house that's really not encumbering county dollars all the time, that we start bringing in some private money to help run this, tourism and so forth.
Like the bridal house.
Like the Bridal House, Friends of
And
Bridal
Friends of-
House.
yes,
Or
yes.
Bledsoe, the trustees at Bledsoe.
Yes.
There's other opportunities out there, and I'd like to explore those.
Okay.
Mr.
And you
Hyde,
know
I
the
think I
Douglas
cut you
Clark
off.
issue.
I likewise appreciate the fact that we need to have knowledgeable people telling us about the house. I think that's good. However, now, my district is far from this area. And I have gradually just thought and studied and actually prayed about this issue. I'm having a problem. I'm having a big problem with this entire issue because I feel that for some reason, I don't know why, we're sidestepping the issue that monies need to be turned over to the county. What's going on that we can't just simply do what is right? That's my problem with this. There's something, now I'm chairman of the commission, but I'm not knowledgeable of what's going on, but something is happening. I am smart enough to know that when there's something underneath the surface that is not out there, and maybe it's nothing, but I'm very much afraid that we're trying to sidestep some real issues here with this. And there's one commissioner that would have to vote on anything on the floor. I'm not a member of this committee. I'm becoming very, very hesitant about how this whole thing is unfolding before us. It just does not appear right to me.
Go ahead, I've got a thought.
What, how much money do we have in our capital? We just took out some money.
I'm sorry, let me tell you the number. At the beginning of the year, we had estimated, and not counting the 19.5 for the highway, in local around $4.7 million. So you've got about 4.2 right now.
But we're gonna have another problem that we're gonna bring up in a minute, over a core issue.
So my thought is, make a motion to take 500,000 out of that.
I-
100% toward the house, and then we can move forward with everything with the grant, everything. So that would take it to 1.7.
I'm gonna be against moving any funds from the county until the funds have been transferred to the county. The funds need to be transferred to the county before we appropriate any funding, taxpayer funds. So I'll be against it unless we make it, I don't wanna do anything until I see those funds over in our coffers, because I do believe that you read what was written, it should be held with the county. That's my opinion, and I'm not, but that's your motion. Is there a second on it? I think that one dies. Anybody else? I'm gonna make a motion here. Go ahead.
I agree with Mr. Hyde, and I realize that the mayor and Mr. Langford had nothing to do with the transfer of that money. But nobody's been able to explain how that $500,000 went somewhere else. And number two, nobody's been able to explain why it just can't be transferred from wherever it is into an account, as the codicil says. Can you?
I can't, and I want that done.
Okay.
I want it done.
Would you ask the mayor?
Well, I'm gonna that was actually what my motion was gonna be.
Okay.
That we direct, and I think that can be forceful, but go ahead.
Just information, I'm just new and y'all been talking about this for a while. There is some, David, Mayor, there was somebody did instruct us at some point to put it into the account that what I just heard makes it sound like this money's been spent somewhere else.
No.
That is not the case. This money is
somewhere else.
It's in a bank account. I think, I won't be for anything unless we restore the house. It's clear as day that we've been given a lot by this family, from both the county side and the school board side. And this comes down to a trust issue is what I think. And I'll just be honest, I've been serving now, we offer it going on 3 years. We don't do a lot. And so I see the side of, well, we signed $500,000 over and it sits in the county. I mean, I don't know. I have no faith that we would vote to spend that money to fix that house. We still got a hole in this archive roof. I think, yeah, I mean, so I see that side, like, okay, we give the money to the county, and then nobody ever votes to actually do anything in the house. Now where's that money go to? So I do think it has to be some type of, whatever we pass has to be contingent upon both things happening, is what I'm saying, because that's what I feel like
If we're
is going on.
If we're following state law, which we have to, if you receive a donation, you have to use it for the purpose of the donation. So if you receive the donation, you're not gonna use it for the purpose, it's gonna have to be given back. And no, the money is not missing, it's just over in the school board trust. There's not a question of missing funds, if that's what people are saying.
So I
It
guess-
was deposited in the trust versus with the county.
So I guess what I was just trying to say is whatever we do, whether it's this body or, I think it's gonna take people actually working together, that whatever we pass is, when this is done, this then immediately has to happen. I think that's served a long time. Commissioner Hyde, I've known him since I was 6, probably longer than that. And I think this makes sense that whatever we come on, it has to be a total project that we are agreeing to do. And it's like, okay, we're voting to do this project. And when this gets voted yes, then the money immediately comes here. And then that 500,000 goes to this. And like the citizen said, 2017 was a long time ago. I mean, now, every day we wait, it's getting more and more expensive to restore that house. So we can have subcommittees or whatever, but
Mr. Wright?
that's my
I think the commissioner is exactly right, because having lived for 35 years in Hendersonville in a house that was built in 1797, it's a very expensive proposition. And the longer we wait, the bigger and deeper hole that we are building. It's not right to jerk people around and have them coming back and forth to the commission meeting, trying to be heard. And I feel like we don't know everything. And I'm not blaming the mayor necessarily or the school superintendent. I'm just stating a fact. And I feel like, personally speaking, I feel like it's coming down to the point that the legislative committee may have to consider petitioning the chancellor for a decision on the will. The people should not have to fund any kind of legal action like that, and it would at least tell us, okay, we're right on this issue or we're wrong on this issue, and put it to bed, instead of having to have people come up here every time we meet to talk about this issue, when I'm hearing us all pretty much in agreement as to where the money ought to be and what ought to be done. And so I'm just saying that I'm moving toward the point of saying we may have to petition Judge Oliver, the chancellor, to interpret the will for us.
Mr. Chair.
He was next, and then you go ahead.
All right, so I'm going back to my motion here. So however we want to phrase it or whatnot, I personally 100% agree that the house needs to be taken care of. Okay? I haven't heard anybody here tonight say anything about not taking care of the house. So, but I also don't want to lose the grant, the funding from the grant matching. So my motion basically is if I would like take 500,000 out of capital to move it toward the funding of the grant matching, contingent on the 500,000 from the trust being transferred to the county in order to take care of that house.
So let me just make a question. So are you stating that the 500,000, so you have 500,000 from capital, and we have the 500,000 that's sitting in the trust fund right now that we want. Are you suggesting that this is gonna be 500,000 from the trust that goes into the, that replaces that 500,000, or is this gonna be in addition to, so that we would now have a? So now we're talking about 1.65.
He's talking about using the 500 to match the grant, keep the 500 back to fix the house and maintain only. But something that may be important.
So in addition to, or is it replacing?
In addition.
So what's the total spend on that? So what?
What is it right now, 125?
125.
So 175.
So it would be 1.75.
That 500,000 that's in the trust would be transferred to the county to address the house.
Okay.
And then 500,000 from capital being used to match that grant.
Well, that's a motion. Is there a second?
Say something important about Mr. Becker's motion. We've already spent, you know, there was 125 put out for the match from the county and the grants, 625 and 5. We've already spent about 130,000, and we got another PO on 130. So if we kill the grant, all the architectural fees are going down the trasher pretty much. So what you will save, prevent all that losses.
So you're saying if we kill the grant, we lose 260,000?
Well, whatever we can, we're gonna have to pay them for work done. We know they've done a work of at least 130. We don't know how much more they've done off the PO and if we can get out of the contracted PO. So yeah, somewhere between 130 and 260 right now, we can say is going to waste if we kill the grant at this point.
Plus $10,000 that the state charges.
We have a motion on the floor.
I second it.
We have a
So we
motion and a
discuss.
second. I'm just, it's real fast. I'm probably gonna be against this until, I don't want to put any taxpayer dollars toward a park until we have the funding that we were supposed to have for the park originally.
But that's.
I think that's what he's saying.
That's what he's motion.
If the county doesn't receive that 500 from the trust, then it's a dead issue.
Yeah, and then we got,
That's
we got
exactly
a
what
lot of
I'm
different things we could do other than 500. This is one of these things that we just,
But I think,
grows,
and I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I think that's what I just said, is that's why nobody wants to give us the 500,000, because we got people who are like, I don't want to spend any money. I don't care if the guy gave us $100 million
I'm
for
fine to spend the
education.
$500,000 that we were giving to it.
Just doesn't sound like it.
I would make a motion to spend the $500,000 right now. I don't want to spend 500,000, then another 500,000, then another 500,000.
But legally, you can't send that 500,000 to get the grant. You can do that, but you're walking away from the 625.
Yeah, we do, and I'm all right with walking away with the 620. I don't really want to. I wish we could find a way not to do it. I've been trying to figure out a way not to do it, but you know, I also don't want to throw good money after bad. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Mr. Hyde, you asked to speak earlier. Did you have another item? I think I skipped you. You called him. Okay, sorry. Mr. Klein.
David, I'm seeing total invoices back when I did this spreadsheet of 192,000.
There was two parts there. There was $100,000 that was originally appropriated to do a park study and other stuff.
Right.
91 of that was paid out. Then there was a $500,000 from the wheel that was budgeted, 125 local money, and 625 for a grant. Out of the 125 local, and there's 125 of the grant, you know, the 625, there was POs let for about, in a little bit, about 260,000, and we spent about half of it. So there's POs involved too, plus there's some timing issues.
Yeah, well, I got all these from Beth, all these invoice numbers, so
There's two parts, there's another 191 back there.
Yeah.
So you've got more.
And then as to the grant cannot be used on the house at all, as I'm understanding. Isn't that right, Mr. Mayor?
The way it's currently written.
The way it's currently written. Now, in general ops last week, we asked that the grant writer would look into other.
That'd be Ms. Norfleet, yeah.
Ms. Norfleet into grants that would address the house.
There's an issue with it, Dave, and that's the reason the grant wasn't included, is my understanding. If you include the house, it's gonna have to be available to the general public to go through it.
Right,
You're
right.
going to
It's gotta
have
be
to have-
opened all the time.
I'll have to have an employee, and that's the same issue we got down at the Douglas Park House right now.
I'm gonna make a motion. I'm gonna make an amendment to the motion here. Did you wanna go?
I was just gonna see if we got a vote or.
Well, I'm gonna make an amendment to this, because I get your point, you know, we're just gonna sit here and spend on it, and when there's no trust, that we're never gonna spend any money. I'll amend the motion just to this, that we will immediately initiate, that we will immediately appropriate funds taken from this, or taken through this will, or from this will, through the trust. And as soon as they are in our coffers, we will immediately initiate work to renovate the home. That's my motion. It's the simplest thing in the world. As soon as we get the money, we'll start work. Motion and a second.
Would, just point of clarification, when you say immediate, will we work from MTSU? Because I would like that expert opinion.
Yes, I'm not saying we just go
Okay.
out, we are free.
I just know
going out with a hammer the next day.
We are free to do that in fact, I will go ahead because I have the ability to do that. I'm gonna just appoint that subcommittee, but to your point, let's not just appoint a subcommittee with nothing on it. My motion is just to take the money, as soon as we get the money, we will immediately build plans to execute to renovate this home. That's my motion. There's a second. Go ahead.
To clarify, it's an amendment to my motion, so is the 500 from capital?
No, that's all. I mean, that's struck. If my motion would amend that 500,000 out. It's just basically I'm saying.
So your motion, we lose the 625.
We might, yes. Now, doesn't mean we necessarily have to lose it. I think there might be some ways that we can scrounge around and find it, because I'll be honest, I'm not totally convinced that there isn't a way that we can't figure this out, but these are two parallel things. There's no reason we can't go ahead and begin work on that house with the money that's been appropriated, or that's been handed to us through that will. And if the grant, if the state wants to take that grant away from us and say, well, we can't do that, then we'll go find another grant. I mean, I don't know, and if the county decides that they want to put money toward it through capital, we can decide that on a later date. Let's just fix the house and go from there.
I like the motion, but I just want to be clear. If you do that, you're not losing the 625 per Mr. Klein. You're losing somewhere between 755 and 800. If your number's right on the invoices. Because you've already spent that saying you're going to take that grant. So now that money you sunk into that is gone.
You're right. I mean, I'm just getting rid of the sunk cost.
I'm good with that. I'm just saying that don't say we're losing the 625. We're really losing.
The 625 plus.
You're losing 800.
What's the total amount?
He says 131. He says 190.
Well, the 91 was sunk from an earlier 100. What David's looking at includes it. We have POs out for somewhere around 260, which we spent about 130 on. So you're 130 plus sunk. You only put 120.
Plus 125.
You only put
750, 760.
So I was giving them.
You only put 125 local. So if you guys kill the grant, you're gonna have to come back and kind of straighten that up too, and figure out if you want to kill it and stop all progress.
Go ahead.
The design is not dead. The design is still the design. The acreage is still there. It just depends on how you want to fund it.
Yeah, and we can fund that at a later. I
We
mean,
can
that's
fund
a
that
good
at a later
point. We
date.
paid for a plan.
You know,
At that point, we paid for a plan. The plan's still there.
In a letter to Mr. Sittler, Mr. Langford said there's one part, but in truth, there are two. There is the immediate 0.8 acres around the house. That's one entity.
That's incorrect.
Well, here's the thing. I'm just trying to move us along here. I have a motion. It has a second on it. The motion would, yes.
So we got to vote on if we want to amend yours.
The amendment. And I'll be clear here, whether we're considering are we losing the 725 possibly, or are we saying that the 130,000 extra is really, that's what we paid for a plan, and we still have a plan, which is a good point. I'm fine with it either way, just because it moves the ball forward. So, and I'm going to appoint this ad hoc committee regardless to oversee it, but at least we're moving something forward with it. So that's my motion for the amendment. It has a second. Any other discussion?
Can you just state that motion one more time?
The amendment is as follows, that we will again request the full sum as given to us in the Brown will from the trustees. And immediately upon receipt, we'll begin to execute renovations and by execute renovations, I don't mean we're immediately gonna go out on the hammer, but we will begin to execute, planning and renovations for the Brown House in accordance with the will.
Does that include interest?
I don't wanna fight over that. I mean, we can fight over the interest if we want to, but
7 years of interest on the house.
it's probably gonna be about $30,000 or $40,000. And we can fight on it later. I just wanna get us moving. It
On
doesn't
your-
include the interest.
On yours, can you put when the county receives the money that we start drawing interest at the county? We'll restrict it in the general fund
That's
and
fine,
restricted
yes,
account.
I will
but
add that to it.
Generally,
All
all interest goes to debt service unless specifically directed.
right. Is the second good with that? All right.
I think you need to put a cap on that, of what we're willing to spend to get the Brown House ready to go. You know, up to, if you're gonna say up to the 500
Up
or.
to the 500.
Because just saying that, you know, what if it comes back at $1.2 million?
Well, we're spending up to 500.
I understand, then we spent 500 on something that's still not done, we have to spend that 500. We have to spend it off that motion, and you still have a house that's not completed. That's all I'm saying,
Yeah,
just an
I
idea
know.
that
I
you.
mean, and that's the risk.
If you're gonna let it fall apart, you wanna let it fall apart without sinking the 500 in it, I guess is what I'm. If,
I see what you're saying.
you should, like, if you spit, we put that in writing.
Once you set the funds, you gotta.
Yeah,
And you-
that's a
You're
very.
kinda stuck with the
Yes.
codicil.
You're
got
stuck
to
with,
do
you
it.
gotta
It's all
spend the
or nothing.
500, you gotta spend the 500.
Yeah.
And if you're saying that's our drop dead point at
And
500.
look, in another commission
also
or another, we
got
can
that
fix
80.
that in the future if it, you know, we can change that, but 500 is the initial cap.
I can tell you the Clark House, they restored it in a historic manner back in 2009, 10, and it was $1.6 million, maybe? Does that sound right? It was $1 million plus, I think it was.
It was a $500,000 matching grant.
I think it was over $1 million when we got done. 'cause it was-
Right, but I remember, I know, because we deal with that in tourism, that's why we're stuck with the employee for 20 years.
I mean.
I think your motion's great, Mr. Chairman, I'm just saying, I want us to
You're
be,
correct.
think all the way through it, so we don't, we all talk about not wasting money. I'd hate to throw 500,000 something and it not get us anywhere to the house being, and now we're all sitting there again going,
Well, there's gonna be,
Do we
there
walk away
there will
from
be,
600?
look, I mean, we're gonna have a subcommittee over on this. I'm gonna appoint this, and we're gonna get an estimate, it'll be just like everything, just like we do anything else. There will be an estimate that will come back. There will be an estimate that will come back, and that estimate will say, you know, $420,000, or it'll say $1.4 million. And if it's $1.4 million, then what we're gonna have to do is go to the citizens and say, hey, do we wanna take $1 million out of capital and put it toward this, because we lost the grant?
well, no, because the grant's for. a
Well, the
park.
grant's for something far, anyway, well, you're fair, you're right, but I mean, regardless, we're gonna have to go back and say, hey, we wanna spend $1 million on this house.
You have to maintain it.
Because we were only
But
given
we
$500,000.
do have to spend the 500.
We have to spend
You
the
don't have to
500,
maintain
we
it.
are obligated.
And you have to maintain it at that level, however far.
The whole deal with the Clark House right now is we've had to
That's
go
it.
back inside it. and work
Motion,
on it.
we have a
Can't
second,
do it.
any other discussion on this one?
I'd
All
like
in
to
favor?
serve on that subcommittee.
All in
You gonna build a
favor?
road to it?
I mean, if
It's
I,
in the middle of
the
a
house.
field right now.
It is in the middle of the field, the house takes priority, that's what the will says, we're gonna execute the will. All in
Will
favor?
says house and park.
Well.
It's centerpiece of the
With the,
park.
with the home as a centerpiece. And it may turn out that this is a lot more than that, and then we get to, you know, when you take in stuff, and I've said this, I know I'm getting
You're gonna have to have
annoyed,
small
but I've
park
said this
around
many
it.
times, I've said this about the bridal house. Whenever we take on this property, whenever we take this stuff on, we end up taking on a lot more. It sounds like it's a great thing, and then you end up with
It's a centerpiece of the park.
stuff.
Albatross.
All right.
Of course, you end up getting 19 million from the man.
You could make.
And we did do that, yes.
You got 19 million from the man.
We
so.
did, and so maybe it's worthwhile, I mean, I wanna execute the will. I'm the first one to make a motion to actually do something on this, so there's the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
No.
Oh, wait, you have two noes? We have a note, were you a no? Okay, so motion carries, but it was not unanimous.
Because you didn't appropriate anything, you're just doing.
Yep, all right, now we're gonna be back on the main. All in favor? Main as amended, which is basically my amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
We have two noes. Mr. Palmer and Mr. Becker. Okay. We've done this. We've actually moved something forward. County clerk, $6,000 to replace chamber microphones. This is second reading.
I've been contacted by the county clerk, and something to point out, you just were talking about 24 microphones, counting the mayor, me, sheriff, the one for the audience. She says you need 31 and around $7,000 to replace all of them.
Okay, so now we're gonna have to change this, so
A little over seven, like $7,500.
So I will motion to amend this to $7,500.
Is it gonna have
Second.
And I'll motion to waive the second reading.
Second, wait.
Motion, we have a second, motion to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries and we don't need a second reading. Okay, here we go with another big one. The additional funding needed for the Westmoreland EMS station. So, Mr. Mayor, I will let you break the news on this one.
Okay, so originally, when we were first talking about the ARPA funding and an EMS station, it came in at 3.5 million was the estimate. This body cut it to 2 million. We've got an estimate that's come back from the architect that will be roughly 3.5 million plus the ancillary cost of 4.2 million total. That includes the land. So we're gonna need that difference to build this fire station, or EMS station, excuse me.
I'd like to make a motion to run it back to general ops with the breakdown. Here's the estimate in the plans.
We don't have time.
We'll go ahead.
It's got $2 million
We have a
of
motion.
it, yeah, ARPA money.
It's got ARPA funding on it. That's the problem.
By December 31st, if you don't have a.
I'll make a
goddamn
motion here, and here's the motion. The motion is to appropriate the rest of the funding that we have in ARPA, which is about $400,000, right?
404,335.
Okay. Now, how much is left? How much is left? Excuse me, so 404 plus, how much did we have in it, 1.7?
Well, he's got some land, he bought around 1.7.
So
About
that brings us to
2.1.
2.1, what's the total?
So you need 2.1 more.
We need 2.1, so I would, my motion is to appropriate 400,000, this is why, we're not trying to put money into parks. Appropriate $400,000 from ARPA and an additional 2.1 million of capital in order to build this EMS station. That's my motion.
And again, this is an estimate. We'll go to the bid process through the finance department, share all that
Unless we wanna
information
kill
with
it.
general operations.
And
No,
we
that's the motion.
can, we
Does
can
it have a
CC
second?
David on all of them if that would
Does it have a
help.
second?
I'm just, a second so we can talk about it.
Motion and a second, Mr. Klein.
We don't even know what we're getting. We have no idea what we're getting, and we're appropriating millions of dollars for something. We don't have any kind of estimate, any kind of line item. We don't have any kind of plan. It's just the architect said we're gonna run short by $1.5 million or whatever, and so we're just gonna do it.
Well, this is an estimate because, and the only reason why we're bringing it back to you is because it was so much higher. Typically, we'll just go ahead and engage the architect, let them do the drawings, and then bring the estimates to you. But because there was a difference, and I know the time frame, I wanted to be transparent, bring it to you up front, and say, okay, this is what we're looking at. And if it comes in lower, great. But we have to start, before I encumber more fees with the architect, and then come back and say, oh, that's wasted money. Because y'all said, no, we're not gonna go that route. I wanted that out front. And then we'll start with all these numbers. Everybody's gonna see the architect, once the drawings are done, and this is gonna be a basic building.
I know, but we're abandoning a $300,000 house that has served as the EMS facility for years. And now we're talking about $3.5 million to replace it.
Well, the EMS station that's in Westmoreland is outdated. It will not fit the current ambulances.
I realize, but how many square feet are we talking about?
7,000 square feet.
That's not big.
Be 2 bays.
That's huge.
I mean, that's not huge for an EMS station.
7,000?
7,000 square feet.
I think that includes the bays, David.
2
bays.
Does that include the bays?
I mean, the bays
The
will take.
bays are walls, a roof, and a slab. I mean.
Well, go ahead.
I mean, it's part of the square footage on that.
Yeah.
Mr. Pomeroy.
When did this first come to us and start getting talked about?
Been probably a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah, but it's when I.
No.
I don't think it's been quite that long.
No, it
was on our long-term, it was on our long-term plan for ARPA.
It was before we
Mr. Holt.
we got voted in.
Before Mayor Holt left, there was
go
a
ahead.
whole group of them appropriated, and it was one thing.
My point, yes, no, whatever. Been on these committees a long time. Old business is gonna get to double, triple Z. And I keep hearing the same question. Well, why does it cost more? Guys, you've been talking about it for half a decade.
We
Yeah,
haven't
I mean,
been talking about it. for half a
It's the
decade.
county, and we've been talking about it for 3 years. We can no longer say the last commission. So for 3 years, we've known that there's ARPA funds, and we've known that we want to build this. And then we come here, and then it's like, well, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough this. I don't have enough. I'm good to vote no for it, but man,
Look,
I mean, we're gonna have old business down to ZZ because it's just like, man, at some point, you gotta either vote to spend money or don't, but you can't just keep pushing it off to old business and then go, how's the cost one?
I'm gonna get in queue and I'm gonna try to be likable.
Okay, well, I don't know, things cost more today than they did 3 years ago. I'll just say that.
So, hold on. So look, here's the thing. Here's the thing. There are nice to haves and there needs to have. And you just heard me argue about being real tight about nice to haves, and I'm happy to be hardcore on that stuff. I mean, I would love if we can afford it at some point to have a nice park, that's great. But no one has argued that we don't need a functional EMS facility in Westmoreland. No one has argued that we do not need that. This committee has put that on our long-term plans twice. So no one's saying we don't need it.
We just won't vote to spend.
Sometimes things, it comes back, sometimes the truth changes. And it's not that anybody was lying, it's not that there was anything malicious. Sometimes, it's just like combat, like you go out and you get a report and you thought the enemy was here and now they're over here. You thought this cost this and now it costs this, and that's just the truth. Unless we can come back and say for some reason that we can price an estimate on that, which is not the role of this body, we have to take
We have to bid on it.
the advice of this individual, and they've come back with an estimate. By the way, this is a third party. This person doesn't have any vested interest in making it higher or lower. It just is what it is.
I need, just help me with some specifics. How many ambulances are we talking about in this facility?
There's 2 bays, I think, right?
2 bays. How many bedrooms? 4 bedrooms. We're talking about $500 a square foot.
This firm just built one for the same price.
That's preposterous to me.
It's the market. I mean, I don't make it up. I don't determine the market. These are the costs. Now, we're gonna bid it out. It may come lower. I hope it does. I'd love for it to come lower. But we're still, this is an estimate. This gives us something, a benchmark to start from, so that we can start the process. We can't start the process until we have an estimate to work from. And now we're gonna start the process of designing it, and then getting it up to par, and then bidding it out through the finance department. And we'll report on every step of the way. But we gotta start somewhere.
Anything that you got an architect and engineer, you're gonna end up with this issue. If it's something else, we could bid it with the mayor. Wouldn't be an issue, but we're required to use an architect and engineer on this.
Well, I understand that. My question is what 7,000 square feet, I don't care what you say, that's a big piece of property. That's a big building. And in order to spend $500 a square foot for 7,000 square feet, I don't know how you can do that for 4 people. It's huge. It feels to me, if I saw just a basic floor plan, I could understand it. But we don't know what we're getting. We have no idea. Look, we're representing the people and their money. We owe it to them to understand what the heck we're gonna build. That's all I'm saying. And I'm just saying, for $500 a square foot and 7,000 feet for 2 ambulances and 4 people, that's a lot.
Mr. Hyde.
I'm for a viable station. I'll tell you that, and I'll vote for it. However, I'm wondering why we're building 2 bays for Westmoreland. Are we going to have 2 ambulances there? And why are we building 4 bedrooms when you could have a larger bedroom bunk area for women and one for men. It looks to me like we've overshot, and let me tell you, from having done a lot of school projects, architects have a vested interest because it's on a percentage basis. If they're charging 8%, then they're getting more. If they can build a bigger building, they're going to get more money. So there is a vested interest.
Absolutely.
Mr. Becker? No. Mr.
That
Pomeroy?
was me.
Oh,
Who
sorry.
came up with the scope is all I was gonna ask, like for the project, is that something that your office worked with Westmoreland EMS, or how did that?
With EMS and the architect in our office.
Because I think
Based
that's
on
what
their
my
needs.
understanding of the precipice of your question was, is where did this 7,000 square feet come from? Where did the two bays come from? And I think that's where the
Director back here.
tension is.
I'll get Mr. Pomeroy, and then I'll motion to suspend the rules. We'll do that.
Just I feel like we have to do a little bit of research. I know that we've had a lot of tornadoes, replacement costs, all this, but the average commercial building in Middle Tennessee per square footage building costs right now, you can put this in Google, is $870 a square foot. I know that sounds preposterous. You put it in Google, the average home right now in Sumner County, average home is $334 a square foot. I get it. I think $700 a square foot sounds preposterous to me. But if it's not the government, the average person, if they buy that piece of land right now and go build a 20,000 square foot commercial building, ranging between $680 and $960 with an average of $840 per square foot commercial building cost. That's just where we're at. Well, we can all complain why we got there with economics, but I had a porch bid at my house, a porch that didn't even have walls. It's 26 by 26, the guy told me $140,000. Just so we could cover roof. I'm like, they don't have walls, man. That's $200-something a square foot, and there's no walls. That's just where we're at in building costs. And I'm not saying that to argue with anybody, I'm just saying that that's not getting cheaper right now. Obviously, we have some problems and cost in this country, but that's not political, that's just facts. So it's not gonna be cheaper, I don't think it'll be cheaper than $870 2 years from now.
Are we ready to vote on this, or do we want to motion to suspend the rules and ask any questions, Mr. Poss, about the scope of it? Would you like to do that, Mr. Wright?
I don't know that well, he might explain why they're too big, but I don't think it's necessary because we know that there's one ambulance there, unless he can tell us that there are more than one vehicle.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Poss, can you please just tell us why that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're looking at long-term construction and the growth in the Westmoreland area. When we started this project, it was actually going into Long Hollow, and it was built in with some COVID PPE storage as well. So right now, we're gonna use that base space for our PPE storage that we don't have room for at our headquarters, and extra ambulance storage. The 4 bedrooms is for future use, so we wouldn't have to completely build those out, but we need to put that in this building on the initial floor footprint of it for what's to come in the future. And I think in the next 10 years we're going to be looking at putting another ambulance in there, and this station's definitely going to service through that time.
Go ahead.
If we look at what's in Hendersonville, we have 3 ambulances in Hendersonville for 67,000 people.
Kind of 4, yeah.
Westmoreland, we'll need a new building by the time Westmoreland reaches the population level. And I understand where you're coming from, build things out that you need in the future. But I really do believe on this project that and you said that it's for the future.
It is for the future. So one thing with Westmoreland being so far up north is when that ambulance leaves, they're traveling a lot further to a hospital. They're staying out of service for a lot longer. So in Hendersonville, we're turning a call in 20 minutes. When that ambulance in Westmoreland gets a call, they're an hour and a half out. So then you got an ambulance coming from Castalia Springs or Oak Grove, and those are rural areas as well. So whenever we deplete that whole area, we need more we will need more ambulances up in that area. It will not just serve the Westmoreland area, but it will also serve Castagon Springs and Oak Grove. The way that we move our ambulances around with a system status management.
This scares me a little bit more now because I'm hearing that, and I think you do a good job. I'm not criticizing you, but we then have to think about building 2 bays at Castagon and 2 ambulances there, or two
No, we're
two
really
bays.
good. It would kind of be a hub for that area because we have the airport road station that serves out towards Castagon Springs as well. And then Portland comes towards Oak Grove as we move people around. So I'm saying it would kind of be the northeast hub to serve that area where we're not depleting resources as much with just one ambulance going out. Does that make sense?
I would definitely vote for this station, and I think it's needed, and I think Westmoreland often does not get what some of the rest of us get, so I would vote for it. But I would vote for something that was reasonable and that we could possibly build like we did school buildings. We could build on with an easy addition way to a building. Now, I would vote for that, but I would not, I couldn't vote for this large a building.
I can answer one of the answers about the size of the building, which I don't think, he hit upon it, but I don't think it quite was clear. The ARPA funds that we're using, there's 2 sources. General revenues have to be used things like broadband, PPE, water, sewer. There's very limited uses. This $2 million is coming from the general, which is limited use, not the revenue replacement. So if we weren't storing PPE in here, it would have to be over in the general revenues, which means it could be a smaller building. So part of it's to store is PPE to make it qualify for this ARPA funding.
It's PPE.
It's
Personal protective equipment.
Yeah, mask, yeah.
Stuff like that.
But the thing is, for it to qualify for the ARPA general, we're gonna have to use it as a primary PPE storage too, where we're transporting it. If not, then the $2 million can't be used by this, and we've got $2 million in general. It's gonna have to be used for broadband, water, or something very quickly, and the EMS station wouldn't be fundable for it. So that kind of helps a little bit for the size.
Yeah. And I'd be, if we could save, if it would happen to be even $2 million, I know that our service is in need of other stations. I mean, there's Millersville, there are many other places that we need to make renovations and changes. That's my feeling on it.
Any other discussion on this one, Mr. Wright? All right, so the motion is to go ahead and appropriate all this. I mean, I recognize this is just step 1 in it. So it was 400,000, 405,000 from ARPA.
You gonna bring us back under?
Oh, yes, I'll bring us back on the rules section. So just to restate the motion.
404,335.
So to appropriate 404,000, how much?
$335.
$335 from ARPA and an additional 2.1 million from capital.
Local capital.
Local capital in order to fund this facility. That's my motion.
Which takes us to 2.3 capital left over for the year.
Yes.
And I would request if possible waive the second reading.
I will waive the second reading. Who has the second? Or was there a second? Who was the second on this? Were you? Who was the second?
I seconded it.
Oh, you
No,
did?
Dylan seconded it.
Are you good with that?
Yeah.
Still good with it? All right, Mr. Klein.
Is that the total cost of it then?
That's the estimate.
2.5?
The total cost is 4.1 or 4.
I believe it's masonry too, isn't
Yeah,
right here.
4.2.
It's right here.
So the total cost is 4.2. The total cost to us is 2.1 because the rest of it's coming out of our. So we're getting a $4.5 million building for $2 million.
it? Then we don't need a PPE for that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. And the second reading is waived. All right, let's continue. New trailer versus the continuing rent. Mr. Klein or Mr. Mayor, either of you guys can comment on this one. Y'all know this better than me. Mr. Klein.
Yeah, what we're doing is we're getting prices from 3 architects to see what it would take to improve those 2 sleeping quarters. And I'll have those to general ops at the next meeting. So I think This could go to old business.
Is there any,
I didn't know Gen Ops hired the architects now.
No, we don't hire the architects. We're gonna get estimates from 3 different architects.
Can I make one point?
go ahead.
You guys appropriated $12,000. It's running $92 a night. Right now, you're probably down to a little over 4, so probably next month, you may want to slide this back in our old business, because if we're not having got it handled, we need to look about appropriating additional funds for the
Question.
dwelling.
Can Gen Ops do that? Is that,
I don't know.
from my
That's-
understanding, we only have to connect as a body. I don't know if Gen Ops can do that. I feel like that has to be something that would need to go through
What's happening? What was the question?
engaging architects and getting estimates and,
That would really need to run through the mayor's office or yeah.
from my understanding, we
Go
only
back
have
through
authority
one.
as a whole. So I don't think.
All I'm doing is getting prices.
I don't think you can even do that. though.
Why
So,
not?
so wait,
Because you
we're
can't
talking
act
about,
as-
here's the thing, we're talking about this here, what's happening in Gen Ops is not germane.
Do we just want to bid a
What do we,
one like this?
do we want to try to solve this problem? That's the question.
This
Or
is
do
a
we want to
vehicle.
continue to kick this?
Is this a vehicle?
Yeah.
Because to settle this, if the mayor's amicable to it and he gets into us the specs, we could just bid it and
We
get an
just
answer
buy
what it
one.
costs.
We don't need one.
But I mean,
We need to fix the building and send the vehicle back.
Do we have,
And we need to, before we do that, we need to put the plug on so that we can get rid of the generator that we're spending hundreds of dollars in diesel fuel running it 24/7.
do we have any estimates? Do we have, has anything been moved?
I had estimates, but Gen Ops said that they're getting their own estimates.
What were the estimates? Let's,
Yeah.
$2,000 for the plug, or
Okay,
$1,800 for the plug. Then that met the standards of the city of White House, pulling permits, we weren't gonna run it, well, it was doing it by the standards that the city of Millersville wanted us to do it by.
what is the total, what would be the total cost to fix the building such that we no longer had to run a temporary
Well,
facility?
it's over 50,000, so we would have to engage an architect, unfortunately.
Okay.
And,
I don't
and then
believe
have
so.
them draw that
So
over.
we don't-
But Gen Ops says they can do it for $12,000.
That would be
And
the
I think
architect.
100 and
That would
some
be the
odd.
Do
architect.
we, do we have an architect who has said that we can do this for $12,000?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do.
What, I don't think, never mind.
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna do
Can you
this.
build 2 bedrooms for $12,000?
They're already there. They just need to cut 2 doors.
I'm going to appropriate, here, I'm gonna make a motion to appropriate $20,000 for the county mayor to get to make an initial estimate on fixing this building. So
basically hire an architect.
basically hire an architect in order to do this.
Figure out what it
So you got
costs.
20,000, you have up to $20,000. I mean, let's try to do something, right? I mean, or we can just sit here and keep bleeding. I
You
mean,
want
I
to
just
get him an
wanna-
architect and go
I
and bid
wanna
it through
solve the
finance? Is
problem.
that what we're
That's
doing?
I mean,
We'll get on it tomorrow.
Do you want us to bid it too, or just get plans, or what was the? Are you going to give him 20 for an architect and get us to go and bid it through finance with the architect? Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
right? I mean, or we can sit here and spend, we're gonna end up spending $20,000 in the next 3 or 4 months anyway, because we're just gonna keep Mr. Klein.
I don't believe it'll cost over $50,000. So we can get an architect, we can pay him by fee, and then we can bid it out according to the plans and specifications and get it done.
Then you have up to $20,000 to do that.
But I don't think we can, is
To
it
do
gonna?
the architect.
To do the architect.
Is it gonna modify
That's-
electrical, structural, or
So
anything?
my motion is to appropriate up to
Just say cut two
$20,000.
doors, I'm assuming structural.
Can
No,
Mr.
it's not.
Sittler
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment here, and this is the beast we created to run this county, but regardless of how you get here, it's gotta come through the mayor. And then it's gotta go through this whole thing that we're going through now. I think
That's what my
while
motion is. to
Gen
do.
Ops, I don't think, I'm not gonna weigh in on who's got authority to get all these bids, but at the end of the day, the method for getting it in, for commission to decide what they're gonna do is through the mayor's office.
And that's what my motion
So,
is to do here.
That's all I was trying to
My
do.
motion is to put forward $20,000 for the county mayor to get an architect to get us an estimate on this building. That's my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Second reading waive.
Is that a second reading, right? We'll do, take
And
another
then up
vote?
to.
Up to 20,000. I would like to waive second reading. Are you good with that?
Yes.
I'm gonna vote on it again. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay, second reading.
Oh, from
waived.
local capital fund.
Are we
Yes, local
still
capital.
continuing to rent those?
We have to, but we
Okay.
can bump that off the
I
next.
should-
And you gotta put the rate on the resolution.
We've already
Mr.
done
Chairman,
Yes.
I did have a price from an electrician. He can convert the stove 220, which is on the other side of
I
the
would
generator,
have
for
that-
$400.
Have that electrician just engage with the county mayor, that way we're doing this through the proper, just have him do it that way.
Okay.
Okay, we talked about the reassignment, we already took care of that. Education. Budget.
Group and approve.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3 were second reading.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So we have a motion to group and approve, we have a second. I think this, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, we're on to, wait, did you do 2, 3, or 2, 3, 4?
That was.
That was 1
1,
through
2,
3.
3.
Now we need to do 4 through.
So now 4 through 5.
Four,
Yeah,
eight.
that was like,
Okay, go ahead.
to clarify, what we just did was on the top of the page.
Yes.
Yes.
1, 2, and 3.
Right.
Okay.
It's
So
a second
one-
reading
All
for
right,
it.
so now we're on due business.
So you, item 1, 2, and 3, not budget amendment 2 and 3. That's what that
And
means.
it is their second
Got it.
reading, so you're fine.
Okay,
Right.
new business. Pending approval, education committee items 1 through 12.
Motion to group and approve 1 through 11 and waive a second reading.
All right.
Second.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Is there any new funding? Or any new funds?
This is I sent out an email earlier today with a summary of that Dr. Langford provided on all these amendments. I'm not certain everyone had a chance to read through that, but I wasn't I was out of town. Ms. Bergdorf, were you at the education meeting?
Yes, we grouped and approved.
Group is approved as well, so it was unanimously approved in education, so that's recommended as well.
Any other discussion on these? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Motion to approve 12.
Second.
Any discussion on it?
Will it need a,
No.
it won't need a second? Oh, yeah, because it's just a lease.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Did everybody
Motion
second?
carries.
Yes.
Okay, these are new appropriations for the election commission, $5,475 from general fund unassigned balance for comms and data processing services.
Motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. I'll second it. Motion and a second. Any discussion on this one, Mr. Long?
They're not currently over, but they say they're gonna go over their budget.
So are we asking to, are they asking to appropriate funds before, like,
Before they get over.
before they?
Yeah.
I think we just,
If they're gonna be over, but their concern is
When are they
if they go over during the month, I won't let them get a PO or, because they won't get a PO for over.
are
But they
they,
could transfer, I think that's.
how close are they on budget right now?
They could transfer between line items if need be.
I mean, this is not a huge thing one way or the other. This doesn't affect any maintenance of effort or anything like that, correct? I mean, fine, I'm good with $100,000. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Did you guys
All right.
approve them? The first reading only?
Yeah, waive the second.
All right, we'll take another vote. Motion is second's good with it. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. This is, the 24,000 is a little bit different here. Is there a motion here?
I guess I'll motion it, yeah.
Motion to approve. I'll second it just for more discussion. Mr. Lon, can you give us a little bit of background on this?
Which ones are we talking
This is
about?
1B. B1B.
That's just, during the budget process, there were several items for, the new location, not early voting, but what's it called, preferential voting?
Convenient voting.
Convenient voting centers, and some of those lines that were cut that she's referencing. Currently, she's not over, but they're concerned, same thing, they're gonna go over. For their-
What is the legal notices, that's 15?
That's to actually mail out for ballots, it's not if there's, like, everybody's, when they're saying the legal notices, and somebody mentioned that they're thinking it's the attorney's fees from the suit. The attorney's fees won't be paid unless it's awarded by the courts. And if I get them, I'm gonna send them to legal and do it to verify my
these haven't
attorney's
been-
fees.
This is much like when we do the tax sales, we've got to do a public notice. It's those kind of
Mailing
notices.
and advertising.
It's not from a lawsuit.
Okay.
It's not the lawsuit.
That's like I said, no, that was mentioned.
Mr. Klein.
Should this not have been handled in the budget?
She's saying she's going to be over, and it was discussed in the budget a lot. What was removed was the request for the convenient vote centers and certain line items that were noted. If you go back to the actual tape. And it was, and I'm sure Mr. Show remembers too.
So she's saying she asked and then we removed it, now she's saying.
What
no.
items you removed were for convenient voting.
And the reason we did that is we
for-
compared year over year,
Yeah.
and then we gave a trend up, and it didn't, and it was out of whack. So
There were specifically noted
I'm-
items for that too.
I'm of the opinion that if she has the funds currently and can handle it by transfers, that we do not take action on this one yet. It's a little,
You gonna throw it under old business?
we can throw it under, I mean, I'd like to throw this under old business unless there's a motion to approve.
I agree.
I mean, there's a motion to approve on there, but, so we may need to vote on it unless you want to remove it.
I don't know if I got second, you seconded me, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I'm gonna remove the second, and I'd like to just put this to old business. Leave it on there. And if-
No,
Yeah, but I mean, we can just leave it to old business.
okay.
We can just leave it to old business.
If we vote no, but just, I mean, if we vote no, that just means if she runs out, she just has to submit it again, right?
Yeah, right. I
And
mean,
have to
it
look at it.
doesn't really matter. I mean, that's fine, we can vote no. and-
I prefer to vote.
All right, well, then I'll put my second on there.
I won't remove my first, you can remove your
No,
second.
I'm putting my
You're
second
voting
on.
to approve it.
No,
Or
I
your
just-
motion is to approve it, sorry.
No, my motion was just so we could discuss, it wasn't to approve it, I'm now gonna vote on what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna vote no to it.
I'm gonna vote, yeah, I'm gonna make a motion to deny this.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
So it won't go to old business if it's going off.
It's going off and she can resubmit it.
Resubmit it if she can't handle it in a transfer. Okay, sheriff's office. This is for animal control donation received. That's, motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. This is, carryover BCIF grant funds, motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Still wait second reading?
I'll waive the second reading, second's good with it, all in favor?
Aye.
THSO grant, we don't need to waive a second reading for grant, correct?
Generally we do, because it's only said.
All right, then I will make a motion with, to approve with waiver of the second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. This is EMA requesting overtime funds for the East Tennessee deployment.
You want me to do this?
So I spoke briefly with Mr. Widener on this. I just want to, and I've since spoken with Mr. Long, I just want to know what this is. I want to know what the specific activities were. I'm not necessarily against it. I just want to know what, is Mr. Widener here? I just want to know what we were doing out there. That's all. So I think.
Because it's for his
We
man.
were
He had
providing,
dogs.
we were
He said
providing
he was
relief
a
in the
man.
command center, for some of their staff.
Are we still out there?
No, we're back
And
now.
they-
We've delivered, different, equipment needs, and we've had to drive out there, drive back.
But there is, according to this email, I suppose, there is a chance that he gets reimbursed from that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he
From
gets
FEMA.
reimbursed for.
Right, but he needs to pay it now. and
Possibly.
he'll get reimbursed.
So how would that work, Dave?
If
If he gets reimbursed, then what happens to
We
that?
would put in a revenue and an appropriation if we're gonna pay it, but if it doesn't get reimbursed, then you have a revenue shortfall and it becomes a fund balance.
So would it plug that hole? Would it, I guess the question is, does it come back to general fund balance or does it go?
It would come back to cover this if he gets it, but it'd probably be only a percentage, because I don't think it'd be 100%, usually not. And I could be wrong
What's
about
the total?
that. He doesn't know, he hasn't told you anything, and he says it's for
I need to know, I mean.
Carla and Matt Bronner, so I think what I would do is put it under old business.
Yeah, I need to know what the total.
Because we can
I need
add
to know what
the
the
comp
total is.
balances until whenever.
I just need to know.
What was going on.
All right, we got ourselves in business. We just need to know what the total is and what the nature of the work was.
It's under $10,000. So
Do we have
we can
a-
appropriate up to 10,000, he'll have the calculations.
I'll make a motion for up to 10,000.
He'll provide the calculations to finance.
All right,
He'll have those by Monday.
I'll second up to 10,000.
Matt, I believe, just for reference, David, correct me, but I believe most of the time this stuff is reimbursed at roughly 75%.
75.
So if it's $10,000,
So
it'll be $2,500.
It's gonna cost us 2,500, if I remember correctly.
I will second up to $10,000, but we need
To be
know
fair to
about-
Ken, he said may get reimbursed, so if we're short on it, don't want him,
Sure.
make sure that the email was clear, he doesn't know for sure.
Thank you, Kevin, for that.
All right, do we have any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Matt, just one more thing. I just call him in and see who he's seeking the reimbursement for. Sometimes we get it from the county we go to, sometimes we get it from the FEMA themselves. I don't know who he's asking for that, so you might wanna call him and ask him.
I'll talk to him
So
tomorrow.
you may get the difference.
Good idea.
I'll call him
I
tomorrow.
would think FEMA would. pay
Yeah,
this.
or it could be either, could be both.
Yeah, sometimes that's what they do.
All right, Finance Department, $14,000 from the Portland Committed Fund Banks for a grant match. Mr. Long, could you give us a little bit on that one?
Several years ago, out of the hospital funds, they took $250,000 for Portland grant matches as long as amounts were available. They have $115,720 currently remaining in that amount the county set aside, and they're making a request to use part of this grant, and it is attached. So it's a
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Can you ask you to waive the second reading on this
Waive
one?
second reading.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Opioid Abatement Committee,
Can you suspend the rules and let Dustin tell you what's going on this, because there's quite a bit.
yeah,
of
motion to
reading.
suspend the rules?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, go ahead.
The partnership grant is for $500,000. The $500,000 is actually going to be split up between multiple agencies. So if you were to look on page 290, High Point Health would receive $153,000, Volunteer Behavioral Health $61,000, Sumner Prevention Coalition $93,000, EMS $3,200, and then Risk Management $2,000, and Patient Services is $241,649. This would allow anybody that is being admitted into the hospital to receive care, whether they decide to go into a private counseling area or go and seek a bed space at this Buffalo Valley that would be paid for. This is not taxpayer dollars, this is settlement funds derived from the state.
Yep.
And so we would be using these funds coming up in November, December to apply for state funding that would allow for an additional $500,000 to be brought in to the county to continue this program for another 2 to 3 years. We also have a representative here from High Point Health that can address any questions regarding
I've
the
got
cost.
I've got some questions on.
Yes.
So I just want to know what the patient journey is going to be and what the navigate, like, because I've seen some of these programs and they radically vary in effectiveness. So I'm just, would like to be walked through what's being physically done here for a patient, and then maybe get an idea of how many patients we estimate are going to be touched by the program.
Great question. So 51% of all EMS runs go to High Point Health. Out of those 51%, we're looking at roughly 400 patients or 200 per year, because we did a 2-year study that would actually be treated for this. So if you are a patient and you are in an ambulance and you are taken to High Point Health, you would go into the emergency room. At that point in time, you would have a navigator that would come to you, sit at your side, because most people who have overdosed are more willing to listen to somebody to seek.
So they're going to be right there at the point.
They're gonna be right there.
So what is
a nurse navigator?
So okay, after that happens, what is the navigator, what is that person doing with the patient?
So at that point in time, the navigator's gonna open up the doors to them. You have these options. You can seek help either at Volunteer Behavioral Health, Buffalo Valley, or one of the other many facilities in the area. If that person does not have the availability to pay for the funds or to pay for recovery, or should that facility not have any additional funds, because some of them have been awarded state funding to be able to give them assistance, then we'd be using our funds to cover their.
So we're going to actually physically help these guys with that funds. Okay,
Yes.
that's good. do we have a percentage, like if this were like a nonprofit kind of thing, like do we have a percentage of what the total funds estimated that are actually gonna go toward, patients versus like operations versus overhead?
So if you're looking strictly at operations would be High Point Health, that's $153,000. The $61,000 for volunteer behavioral health, that is for scholarships and for being admitted into their program.
Okay.
Sumner Prevention Coalition's $39,000, that's a box of hope. That means that if you are in the emergency room, or if you're in an area that is having a high concentration of overdoses, you'll receive a box that has naloxone in it, as well as a list of services. Go ahead and get it. Sumner Emergency Medical Services is $3,200. That is for the OD map. So anytime there is a 911 call, it will flash up, not at the residence. It will give you an area such as a zip code to be associated with it. So that way we can see how many calls are going out in case there is a mass overdose.
So the only overhead really on this, and I don't mean this in that because you're clearly doing a good job. The only overhead here is you.
The only overhead at this point in time would be either myself, because I'm paid from a different pot of money, would be High Point Health for the $153,150.86. That's for the navigator.
Yeah, but I mean, the navigator is physically, I don't consider that overhead. I mean, their job is to physically, I don't think that's overhead.
Just to be accurate with the numbers, we're still actively involved in litigation. And that is the one thing that you're not allowed to use your opioid money for, is the recovery of attorney's fees and costs to get your money. So that is an expense, and it's probably
honestly, after these
running about $8,000 a month.
I thank you. Any other questions? Motion to approve.
So you're saying we need to keep a buffer in there for attorney fee, or not?
I can't even use this money to pay for it in any way, shape, or form, so this is a county expense.
$100,000 a year.
Yeah, so he's not even counted on that. That's right. I remember that now. All right. Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Thank you, sir. I motion to approve. Go ahead.
Quick
Motion and a second. Go ahead.
So this is basically, this money is for 2 years?
2 years.
So the 500,000 for 2 years, and I guess it's possible that after 2 years, the county has to start paying?
Well, or it goes away, but these opioid abatement runs, they're gonna run for like 10 more years.
The feedback that we got in the OAC was that at that point, High Point Health is gonna go to powers that be, however you wanna word that, and say, here's the statistics that we have, here's how effective this is, and hoping that they would pick it up.
And, but the opioid abatement funds are also running for.
No, this is a well that will run dry, if that's the question.
Yeah, but
And
when?
it started out with a big chunk, and what'll happen is, and that's why we're still tied up in litigation is, and I'm sorry, I just jumped right in.
No,
on that,
I'm just trying to figure out the time.
These guys are not able to pay their plans, and we're seeing multi-billion-dollar bankruptcies occurring in front of us, so we're picking up a little bit here, and the state mandate, or not mandates, but they basically take in all the funds and distribute to the counties based on what.
Yeah, but when is the estimation, when is, it's gonna, cause it's longer than
I
2
would
years.
defer to
What's that?
Dustin, but how many years?
Right now, you're looking at 18 years.
Yeah.
Those 18 years, the funds will diminish.
I mean,
To respect the question about the long term
Asteroid
of the
Apophis is about
program,
Walgreens, so.
250,000 is, I mean, 500 grand for 2 years, we're applying for a state grant, which is outside of our realm for 2 years. And the hospital has agreed to it.
Thank you. And we're still in rules. I appreciate it. I know we kind of broke that a little bit. All right. There's a motion to approve and there's a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. motion
What about,
carries.
wait a second?
Wait a second, and I'm good with it, or I'm good with it, second's good with it, all in favor? Any
Does that,
opposed?
does that include item B also, A and B?
This was number 5.
This was.
This is B5, we're not on, we're not on C yet.
I'm jumping.
So this is grant application and scoring guide. This is A, B, and actually there's A, B, and C, because there was a scope for the van, so.
Motion to group approve A, B, C.
Okay, motion is
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Okay, carryovers, 350 and 353.
Let me explain this.
Yeah, go ahead.
At the end of each year, you have many carryovers through purchase orders. Those purchase orders end up being expenditures the next year's budgetary expenditures that you're required to pay. So our system automatically carries them over when we close in August, and we ask the county commission to approve them in September, even though we're required to pay those, and audit ultimately backs them back out and shows a different comparison. But to note at the top, two things. If you look at the first one, it has an account that ends in 34110. That means things that, it has a C beside it. That means things that are paid by local funding. If you go down and you see some gray areas, while we carried over the system, we left exactly as is except for the gray areas. We amended the budget for items, or asking you to amend the budget for items that are ultimately going to be funded by grants or grant revenues.
Motion approved.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion
That's
carries.
two. That's item two.
That is item 2.
Can you wait a second on that because of its size?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, multi-year copier lease. How much is this?
It is, I think, $60, $60.09 times 2 per month, and it's a 60-month. I think it's
So,
60.
Motion approved, waived.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. What's the multi-year grant service? What is this?
It's for GNRC for assistance with writing some of the grants and for Miss Norfleet and with some of the other administration. We've had the contract for several years, but it is a multi-year contract. We can get out for 30 days.
We got out
but-
of these.
Well, we've got contracts you can get out for 30 days, but if they're at the end of the year, then it's going to overlap the budget. So
What's
that's why.
the price?
It is,
Oh,
it says on,
6,000.
I was trying to get back there.
$399. Project fee and budget assumption,
Motion
6,000.
approved, waived. Second.
What are we, I may be okay with, what are we getting out of this?
You are not asking for a new appropriations just to move a multi-year contract. It was, if you read the contract, it's my understanding, to help with writing and finding grants.
But where's that, we have somebody who's writing.
Miss Norfleet's works with them because they've got a writer, I guess.
Oh, so they're
Resources. Well, this is a couple
providing
things.
assist. They're providing an assist?
Right. And then you've also got to look, we also hired a company that helps us with things like the ARPA. So we don't have a lot of staff, so we
No, I
outsource
know.
some of these things. That's one of the reasons I requested the original ARPA outsourcing, which is
All right.
what expensive.
So is this 6,000 a year?
I think it's for the whole time, on an as-needed basis. I'm not sure on that.
September 1 through December 31, 26, 24 through 26.
And it's on an as-needed basis, and it can be canceled with a 30-day notice, but if you think you're at the end of the budget cycle for 30 days, it's not possible to cancel it. not
Is
in
this
the-
per project?
No,
It
it's
says
in total.
we'll invoice the
It's in total.
client 50% at project kickoff and 50% at project closeout.
It's based on whatever project.
But
it
it's
is.
up to, it's not going to exceed 6,000, correct?
It's my understanding.
Per project,
No, 6,000 total.
just for those 2 years.
Total.
Okay, just
I'm
To make sure I
all right with that.
understand, the client project constitutes an amount of
It's a big
6,000.
10 projects.
GNRC will update
60,000.
client for 50% of project kicked out, 50% of closeout.
Okay.
And it says the project is called Sumner County Grant Assist Task Order 1. So
All
they're
right.
helping us with grants.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Request to apply for a TCI grant, RTA membership dues.
And the only reason I bring this up is there's money budgeted in the county commission's budget. The county budget committee specifically and the county commission cut RTA. That was for the donation. There's actually a due portion. So the mayor emailed us asking us if this should or shouldn't be approved. And since it's still budgeted in there as dues, it's not 100% clear. So my two comments are, number one, we need to find out. Number two, we probably need a process to keep the mayor's office from being in the middle of the county commission dues, because it's kind of putting in the middle, determining what you guys want.
Wasn't it a zero though?
It was on the donation, but not for the dues. It was never removed. You removed the donation, but not the dues. That's what I was saying. That's why the mayor's office asked us. One was
Is
removed,
there,
not the other.
Mr. Mayor, what's the benefit of this?
No matching.
Well, this is just the membership dues to the RTA. If you want to pay them,
What do
fine.
we get out of it?
They're running the program another year, regardless of us paying the fees or not. So we're still getting the service public transit. That's the bus that comes up here.
All right.
I think, what was it, like
How-
30,000?
It's,
I rem-
30,000 that we cut out.
Yeah.
It's 50 we cut, wasn't it? Or, yeah, 50. And then
There's
there's
still
6,000
one.
left for dues, yeah.
How much total are the dues?
6,124.
And I remember we had a big discussion about this, how much it was being used and like.
Right,
it
the
was-
ridership.
Yeah, it was not much.
Yeah.
It was
If we're not really getting anything from it,
I remember us going into it and it was, we weren't really getting.
motion to deny.
All right.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we're not doing that. Request to apply for a TCI grant.
Motion.
Second.
Actually, I want to look at something real quick. Mr. Long, can you speak on this one? I don't know that we spoke about this one, and I apologize if I missed it.
It is a training grant, and I believe 42, and it's really equivalent.
Okay.
I think they're just wanting to,
That's fine.
to apply
And it's
for
just,
it.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
They're still apply, so it won't.
These are requests to use funding for the window replacement instead of carpet. We heard that earlier. Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to, for the LTC grant, a motion to approve.
No, that's what I meant.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Question.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Remind me again what LTC.
I've just finished reading it. It's an accessibility, it's for libraries, transforming communities, and she wants the money, if there's no matching, she wants to replace her entry doors so that they're handicap accessible, and she wants to work with her municipality and to advertise to senior citizens and rehab centers. And the grant is community engagement and accessibility resources to small and rural libraries to help them better serve people with disabilities. She said there's no matching, and she said it is also parents who have baby carriers and small children.
No match, all in favor. Any further discussion? We have a motion. We already had a
Oh,
motion.
yeah, we already did that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Employee exemption status and comp time.
Did we discuss that?
Yeah,
one?
go ahead, Mr. Warren.
And some of it I have to recollect off the top of my head, but kind of tell you the situation we're at right now. The county, all your department heads are exempt, do not earn comp time, but that's clear in your elected officials. We have other professional employees, it goes both directions. Some of them earn comp time and some do not. If they qualify under Fair Labor Standards as exempt, then the county commission for many years have let the department heads determine if these are exempt or hourly employees and if you pay them overtime or comp time. It's been going on that way for years. This particular one, there was a request for additional funding. They did a salary survey. The salary survey, from my recollection, and I think both you may have been there too, brought back two amounts of what the employees paid for exempt and not exempt for the assistant because they were eligible in Fair Labor Standards. They wanted the larger amounts, so the then budget chairman, Chris Taylor, made the motion for the budget committee to pay Ms. Hall the larger amount, but to make her basically completely exempt, which means she would earn no comp time. If you read through the letter, she was paid for comp time that she already had accrued in 18 or 19 for 210 hours, which is about $6,000. But after that time, because we get these timesheets after the fact, she say the exemption was turned on and off. I'm not really sure what she's discussing there.
So can I get the timeline on this right? Look, so she was an exempt employee and paid as an exempt employee, which meant overtime.
She was
accrued.
paid, she was allowed to earn, even though she would have qualified under Fair Labor Standards, she was allowed to earn comp time.
Right.
And if she had excessive comp time, they were paying her overtime.
And then she was changed to a non-exempt.
She requested a raise. They did a salary study. It came back. They showed the amount what her salary should be. They weren't happy with it, so we went back and I think they talked to the salary survey consultant, and she pointed out that if you are an exempt versus a non-exempt employee, that she should be earning less if we were paying her overtime and comp time. She took the larger amount. So the budget committee at the time, the chairman made the motion to pay her the larger amount, but not allow her to earn overtime.
So she's now a non-exempt.
She's now.
Oh, excuse me, she's now an exempt
She's
employee.
now been treated as
Has
exempt.
that changed? Has that status changed?
She's saying it's bounced back and forth. I'm
Was
not
there- is there
aware.
was there been any
She
official?
says there's some back and forth.
Is there any
Which I'm not
official-
sure
Has there
where she's
been a
been doing
vote
that.
taken? Has there been any change made?
We
to
paid
that?
her 201, for 201 hours, the amount she had at the time. She was changed. She was paid that in 22 at the amount of
If she was, we
5,900.
can't, because here's the thing, if you make a decision, you can't go back and retroactively say, oh, whoa, I wanna get, I took the higher salary, but now I
So she
want.
got higher and got
Yeah,
paid for the overtime?
I mean,
Vote to deny,
second.
motion to deny.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Tax refund, motion to group approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have one left.
No, you don't.
We,
Oh, I'm
We
sorry.
do. We
The
have
a
real
highway.
one, I
We have
thought you were
a
going
highway.
straight to
we,
the.
no,
My
we
bad.
have,
Brother Sittler, I'm with you.
yeah, so this was the one I added. I make a motion
Second.
to second to appropriate, I want to state it for the record, appropriate $3 million to the hot mix in one state. Typically, Mr. Ellis, this needs to be done on time. Please do that in the future. However, because we have already set aside the $20 million, we're not, this is something of a bucket over here. I'm good with it, so we have a motion and a second. Mr. Long.
Can I pass out the email that I sent to Ms. Boyd? Because mine, I just want to get on the record to make sure we're all on the same page. Where is that email from Ms. Boyd?
I'm not about, you know what you
I'll
just
go
said.
to you.
It won't.
When was he supposed to send this?
Well, we just need it in with some-
It's gotta be here at the
I wrote it
meeting.
to you
In time for
before
notice.
you asked
We
for
weren't-
it
it
before
wasn't
the
on-
meeting,
this
and I gave
didn't-
them to you.
This didn't hit notice standard, that's the problem.
I got
And it's
you.
way over,
No.
but because it's in that 20 million, it's a little,
This is
We
it
need-
right
Oh.
here.
It's appropriate, do we need
Yeah,
to
but
wait?
These are
There's only
one
one.
of
yes, we
them.
would.
All right.
They were
I'm
talking.
second, I'm good with that. What are we doing?
My thing is, there's two things. Let me just give you the gist. There's a 5-year average on the highway department. County technical assistance is the one that's responsible for doing the 5-year average. They say that they're not going to count the capital
That's right.
projects
Agree with
months
me.
towards your 5-year average. But if you look at the two statutes, the statutes talk about local revenues appropriated in funding. All the 19.5 million comes from property tax. So it is local revenue. As long as county technical keeps counted the way they are, just from the highway fund, and nobody changes that, you'll be fine. If they come back and pick this up, then you're gonna have a 5-year average that's much higher.
But they have stated, and I believe
Kind
that
of
they stated right back there on the record that they agreed with me that this should not be counted and thus not applied to maintenance of effort, which is why we did it this way to begin with.
It's the only reason. we did it.
And it's the only reason we did it. And it's the only reason that's why we're able to do this now. And so if they come back and change that, we can go to court, and I'll be happy to go to court.
They're the reporters only, they're the ones reporting only.
You got that in the minutes, though, right?
Well, you're sorry.
We
But
have-
I was
we have-
saying, I have the concerns on one in there.
It's in the minutes.
It's in the minutes.
It was
All right,
dangerous.
we have a motion and a second, and the motion includes waiver of second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, second, all in favor? Aye.
Make sure that-
Great meeting.
Hey, Kevin.
Great meeting.
It may be about more
Get
than.
the lights.
Make them make that.
I was wrong.
Thank you.
That efficient.